Hey everyone, welcome to True Horror Stories Film. Before you get too comfortable, stay with us. What you're about to hear isn't made up in a studio. These are real stories. True accounts of people who experience things they can't explain. Tonight, we're diving into 20 unsolved mysteries. Imagine seeing a person cast 2 shadows, getting phone calls from an empty room in your own house, or watching a coworker vanish without a single clue. If that chills you, you're in the right place. By subscribing, liking, and turning on notifications, you help us bring more of these stories to light, the ones the mainstream never talks about. Turn off the lights. Let's begin. The Haunting of Mercy General. Dr. Sarah Ellis scrubbed her hands under the harsh fluorescent lights of Mercy General's surgical prep room, the water scalding her skin. The hospital, an aging brick structure in a quiet Ohio town, stood like a sentinel near fields of swaying corn and a sluggish river that wound through the valley. At 36, Sarah was a skilled surgeon, her precision in the operating room a shield against the grief that had shadowed her since her brother Mark drowned 3 years ago in that same river. His death, a sudden tragedy during a summer storm, had left her hollow, her faith in order and reason shaken. She buried herself in work, letting the sterile rhythm of the hospital dull the ache. Mercy General was a relic, its corridors lined with peeling paint and flickering lights that buzzed like a dying pulse. Locals whispered of curses, of patients who saw things, misty figures, glowing arms, shadows that lingered too long. Sarah scoffed at the tales, her mind rooted in science. Superstition had no place in medicine. Yet, as she moved through the halls on her first night shift, a faint hum followed her, like distant whispers carried on the wind. She paused, adjusting her stethoscope, but the sound faded, leaving only the echo of her footsteps. The hospital was quiet, the night shift skeletal. Sarah checked her schedule, a routine appendectomy at midnight, then rounds in the ICU. She grabbed a coffee from the break room, the machine hissing like a warning. The hum returned, soft but persistent, vibrating in her chest. She shook it off, blaming the long hours, and headed to the security office to review patient charts on the CCTV system, a habit born of meticulousness, ensuring no detail was missed. In the dimly lit security office, Sarah scanned the monitors, her eyes lingering on room 214. The screen showed a misty human-shaped figure pacing, its edges swirling like fog caught in a breeze. The patient, Mr. Harrow, a 70-year-old with a history of heart failure, had died hours earlier, known for his restless walks down the hall, even when frail. Sarah's heart raced as she rewound the tape, her fingers trembling on the controls. The figure was clear, its movements deliberate, as if searching for something. She played it again, but the screen flickered to static. The image was gone. The hum grew, now a low chant, almost melodic but unsettling. Sarah left the office, her clipboard clutched tight, and headed to room 214. The door creaked open, revealing an empty bed, the sheets crisp and untouched. The air was cold, unnaturally so, and the hum pulsed louder here. She checked the room's corners, her flashlight beam cutting through the dark, but found nothing. No mist, no figure, just silence. Back in the security office, she replayed the tape again. Static, die. Her pulse hammered. Had she imagined it? But the cold lingered on her skin, and the hum felt like a presence, watching. She documented the incident in her notebook. Room 214, 2:17 a.m. CTV anomaly, misty figure, static on replay. Investigate. She tried to rationalize it. Faulty equipment, a trick of light. But the hum gnawed at her, whispering doubts. She returned to her rounds, the hospital's halls seeming narrower, the shadows deeper. Days later, Sarah was in the ICU monitoring Mrs. Carter, a 62-year-old woman in critical condition after a stroke. The monitors beeped steadily, their rhythm a fragile thread. Sarah glanced at the CCTV feed on her tablet, a precaution for high-risk patients. A glowing arm appeared on the screen, hovering beside Mrs. Carter's bed, its light soft but radiant, like moonlight on water. Sarah froze, her breath catching. Mrs. Carter stirred, murmuring, "It's okay," her voice weak but calm. Her vitals stabilized, the monitors quieting. Sarah rushed to the room, finding Mrs. Carter asleep, her breathing steadily. She checked the footage again, but it showed only a faint shimmer, the arm gone. Nurses whispered in the hall, their voices low tales of angels who appeared to the dying, guiding them to peace. Sarah's skepticism wavered. The air felt heavy, wrong, as if the hospital itself held its breath. She noted the incident. ICU, Mrs. Carter, 3:45 p.m. Glowing arm on CCTV. Light. Patient stabilized. Shimmer on replay. That night, during a quiet moment in the ward, Sarah saw a small dark shadow by an elderly patient's bed, room 306. It stood motionless, child-sized, its edges blurred. She blinked, and it vanished. Her camera, set to record during rounds, caught it. A shadowy visitor, silent and still, unnoticed by the staff. She showed the footage to Nurse Clara, a veteran with tired eyes, who crossed herself and muttered, "Not again." Clara spoke of similar sightings, always near patients close to death. But no one spoke of them openly. "Mercy keeps secrets," she said, her voice barely a whisper. The phenomena escalated each night, bringing new strangeness. Sarah monitored a dying patient, Mr. Reynolds, in room 108, his cancer terminal. As she watched the CCTV, his heart monitor flatlined, a long, piercing beat. On the screen, a shadowy shape rose from his body, drifting upward like smoke, its form vaguely human before dissolving. Sarah trembled, her hands cold as she replayed the tape. The shape was clear, a soul glitch, she called it, her mind grappling for terms science couldn't provide. The hum was deafening now, a chorus of voices, some pleading, others angry. She dug into Mercy General's records, poring over dusty files in the hospital's basement archive. A 1940s fire had swept through the East Wing, killing a nurse named Anna, who'd been tending patients near the river. Her death was marked as an accident, but whispers of negligence lingered. The hospital had ignored safety concerns. Anna's journal, tucked among the files, was brittle, its ink faded. It read, "Mercy holds them. They watch, they wait. The river binds their grief." Sarah's stomach churned. The journal mentioned sightings, mists, shadows, glowing figures, all tied to the hospital's darkest moment. Outside, a storm gathered, clouds swirling over the fields. Sarah stepped onto the hospital's lawn, her camera ready, and saw it, a cloud formation shaped like an angel, glowing faintly, its wings spread wide. Locals gathered, phoned out, calling it a warning, like one seen before a flood decades ago. Sarah's photos captured the angel, but within its face she saw marks, his eyes wide, his mouth set in a silent plea. The hum became screams, sharp and desperate. "Run!" She clutched her camera, her rational mind crumbling. Mercy General wasn't a haven. It was a trap. Sarah met Ellie, a 12-year-old patient recovering from a near drowning in the river. They spoke in the hospital's cafeteria, Ellie's eyes bright but haunted. "A man in white saved me," she said, her voice soft. "He said, 'It's okay,' and pulled me to shore." The words were Mark's, a phrase he'd used to calm Sarah during childhood fears. "It's okay." Ellie pointed to the hall, whispering, "He's here." Sarah's skin prickled. She showed Ellie her footage, the misty figure, the glowing arm, the shadow. Ellie nodded. "That's him, but he's not good." Sarah set up cameras throughout the hospital, determined to document the truth. The footage grew stranger. Misty figures pacing empty halls, glowing arms hovering near sleeping patients, shadows standing by beds. The hum was constant, now laced with her name. Sarah, Sarah. The fire, the flood, the accidents, all left spirits bound to mercy, using familiar faces to lure the living. Mark's death in the river had tied him to this place, or something wearing his face. On her final night, Sarah stood in the ICU, the hum deafening, the air thick with unseen eyes. The CCTV showed a misty figure in room 214, pacing where Mr. Harrow had died. A glowing arm hovered in the ICU, and shadows crowded the halls. The angel in the sky reappeared, its face Mark screaming, "Run!" Sarah grabbed her camera and notes, the journal tucked under her arm. The hospital's lights flickered, the hum a cacophony. Mark's voice, Anna's, Ellie's, others lost to time, begging her to stay. She ran, the hall stretching, the shadows clawing at her. The exit loomed, but the air grew cold, heavy, as if the hospital itself resisted her escape. She burst outside, the angel cloud dissolving, the hum fading but never silent. She drove away, Mercy General shrinking in her rearview mirror, its lights flickering like eyes in the dark. The misty figures, the glowing arms, the shadows, the angel cloud. Viewers debated miracle or curse, the comments a frenzy of awe and fear. Mercy General stands, its halls quiet but watchful, its spirits waiting. Locals avoid the night shift, whispering of voices and lights. Sarah never returned, but the hum follows her, Mark's face in every shadow, calling her back to the hospital that never lets go.
The hospital's hidden ward. Have you ever walked into a place and felt it knows you, like it's been waiting for you to show up with all your baggage? That's what this story's about, and it's been clawing at me since I found it. I was digging through an old urban exploration subreddit, one of those late-night scrolls where you're half asleep but can't stop reading. A post by someone called Ward Wanderer stopped me cold. A raw, shaky account of a night in an abandoned hospital that wasn't just empty, but alive, hungry, and personal. The words hit like a punch, my heart racing, my skin prickling with dread. It's a tale of shadows that move on their own, rooms that shouldn't exist, and a hospital that feeds on your deepest regrets. I'm sharing this for True Horror Stories Film because I can't carry it alone. It's too dark, too real. Hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Trust me, this one's going to stick with you. This is about Mia Torres, a college student who thought exploring an old hospital would be a thrill to escape her fractured family. But something was waiting. A shadow that wasn't hers. Furniture that moved itself. Water rising from the floor, and a hidden ward that knew her pain. It started with a hum in the walls, but it became a nightmare that tore at her soul. Her guilt, her shame, her fear. It was all fuel for whatever lived there. I felt her terror reading her words. And I'm telling you now because this isn't just a story, it's a warning about places that thrive on your brokenness. I thought the abandoned hospital would be my escape. My life was a wreck. Fights with my sister Rosa, my mom's endless lectures about family duty, my dad's silence since he left when I was 10. I was 20, flunking my college classes, and urban exploration was my way out, a rush to drown the noise in my head. The old St. Agnes Hospital in rural Ohio was perfect. A crumbling relic from the 1950s, boarded up, forgotten. I figured I'd snap some photos, post them online, feel alive for once. I was wrong. The hospital wasn't empty. It was waiting, and something inside knew my name, my guilt, my every failure. St. Agnes loomed like a skeleton, its windows dark, its brick walls stained with moss and time. I slipped through a broken fence, my flashlight cutting through the dust. my backpack heavy with a camera and water. The air was thick, smelling of mildew and something sharp, like old medicine. The hallways were a maze, peeling paint, rusted gurneys, graffiti screaming, "Get out!" My anxiety, always a low hum, was louder here, my thoughts spiraling. I'd always feared letting people down, especially Rosa, who'd called me selfish for leaving her to deal with Mom alone. Her words stung, and the hospital seemed to amplify them, the silence heavy with judgment. Around midnight, I heard it, a low hum, like a machine buried in the walls, vibrating in my chest. I checked every room, but it was everywhere. No source, no explanation. My heart pounded, my hands shaking. Was it the building settling? My tired mind? I hadn't slept well in weeks, my anxiety keeping me up, my dreams full of Rosa's angry face. But the hum felt personal, like it was calling me. And the air grew colder, like something was watching from the shadows. I felt small, exposed, my failures laid bare in the dark. On my second visit, I was hooked, despite the fear. I was in the old psych ward when I noticed my shadow, except it wasn't right. There was a second shadow beside it, smaller, hunched, moving when I didn't. I stopped, but it kept going, turning to face me, its edges sharp and wrong. My stomach dropped, my anxiety spiking. I tried showing my friend Jake, who'd come along once, but he saw nothing, called me stressed. But the shadow guided me, pointing to a loose floorboard I avoided, a syringe I didn't step on. It felt protective, but also possessive, like it was claiming me. I started to trust it, even as it grew darker, more solid, its movements less like mine. I felt like I was fracturing. My thoughts were a mess of guilt and fear. I'd always worried I wasn't enough, that I'd fail Rosa like I'd failed everyone else. The shadow seemed to know that, growing stronger every time, I doubted myself. I called Rosa, my voice breaking, apologizing for leaving her, for being selfish. She didn't answer, just texted, "Stop making it about you." Her words cut deep, and the hospital's hum grew louder, like it was laughing, feeding on my shame. I felt trapped, like the building was a cage, and I'd walked right into it. A week later, things got weirder. I'd left my backpack in an exam room, but when I returned, it was in the hallway, neatly placed. Chairs I'd passed were rearranged, forming a circle in the lobby. I checked my camera's time-lapse. Nothing moved, but the footage showed the chairs shifting instantly, like they'd teleported. My heart raced, my mind screaming. Was someone here? I searched every corner, but the hospital was empty. Just the hum and my shadow, now darker, almost human-shaped. I felt violated, like the building was playing with me, exposing my chaos. I left a note on a table, "Who's here?" and came back to find a reply in shaky handwriting. "Sorry, Maria. I lived here first." My blood ran cold. Who was Maria? The hum grew louder, pulsing with my heartbeat, and I felt a wave of guilt, like I'd trespassed on something sacred. I called Jake again, begging him to come back, but he laughed and said I was losing it. I felt alone, my spirit crumbling under the hospital's gaze, the shadow watching, its edges pulsing like it was alive. On my third visit, the hospital changed. Water started rising from the floor, droplets defying gravity, sticking to the ceiling like upside-down rain. It wasn't wet, but it whispered my name. Mia, in a voice that wasn't mine. My anxiety was a constant scream, my thoughts spiraling. Was I hallucinating? I'd read about stress-induced visions, but this felt real. The water cold against my skin. The whispers sharp in my ears. I started having dreams, vivid, crushing, where Rosa screamed at me, her face fading into water, her eyes accusing. I woke up gasping, my nose bleeding, my body heavy like something was pinning me down. I found an old patient chart in a records room, dated 1953, mentioning a nurse named Maria Delgado, who died in a fire in the psych ward. Her notes described water from nowhere, a hum in the walls, patients screaming about shadows. The last entry read, "They want my guilt. I can't leave." My heart sank. This wasn't new. Maria had faced this, and now it was after me. The hospital felt alive, its walls pulsing with the hum, the water rising higher, whispering secrets about Rosa, about my dad, about every failure I'd buried. I felt my spirit breaking, my hope slipping away under its gaze. Desperate, I explored deeper, finding a wall in the basement that sounded hollow. I pried it open, revealing a hidden ward, pristine, untouched, with 1950s furniture, patient charts, and a bed made up like someone had just left. The hum was deafening here, the water pooling upward, the shadow standing in the corner, its eyes glowing faintly. My heart pounded, my hands trembling. The charts were all Maria's, her handwriting describing a curse tied to the hospital, a place that fed on pain. One chart had my name, dated before I was born, Mia Torres, guilt carrier. I hadn't written it, but it was there, my fear, my shame. I felt like I was losing myself, my reality blurring. The shadow guided me to a photo in the ward, showing a nurse, Maria, looking just like my grandmother, who'd worked as a nurse before I was born. My stomach dropped. Was this a family curse? I called Mom, my voice shaking, demanding answers. She admitted Grandma had worked at St. Agnes, seen shadows, heard water, dreamed of patients begging her to stay. She quit after a fire and thought it was over. But her silence felt like betrayal, like she'd left me to face this alone. The hospital's hum grew louder, mocking my pain, and I felt Maria's presence. Her guilt merging with mine. The shadow wasn't random. It was Grandma's, her guilt for leaving patients during the fire, latching onto me, her granddaughter. The hidden ward was her creation, a pocket dimension where she tried to protect patients, but it became a trap, feeding on her shame, now mine. The water was her tears, rising to drown me in her pain. I found a letter in the ward, written by Grandma. "The hospital takes your guilt. Don't let it take you." My heart sank. This was a family curse, tied to St. Agnes, hunting us across generations, feeding on our failures. My guilt over Rosa, over Dad, over every fight. It was fuel, making the shadow stronger, the water higher, the hum louder. I tried to fight it. I scattered salt, burned sage, read prayers from a Bible I found in the ward. The hospital shook, the water screaming, the shadow's eyes blazing. But the charts kept appearing, my name on everyone, dating years from now. I felt my mind fracturing, my thoughts blurring. Was I Mia, or was I Maria's echo, trapped in her guilt? The hospital seemed to pulse, its walls alive with her pain, and I felt her inside me, her whispers louder, her hands colder. One night, the shadow spoke, its voice my own, but older, tired. "Mia, you can't leave." I demanded answers, and it said, "You're already here forever." My blood ran cold. The ward wasn't just a trap. It was a temporal loop, aging me when I entered, my hair graying, my joints aching after one night inside. The charts weren't predictions. They were records written by me in the future I was already living. The hospital was a pocket dimension, twisting time, pulling my guilt into reality. The water showed Rosa's face, fading, like the hospital was claiming her too. I found a hidden door in the ward, appearing only when I was at my lowest, overwhelmed by guilt. It led to a room of mirrors, each showing me, older, broken, my eyes like Maria's. One mirror showed Rosa, screaming, water rising around her. I realized the hospital wasn't just after me. It was after my family, my sister, my pain. I felt my spirit shatter, my reality blurring. Was I still Mia? Or was I already part of the hospital, my guilt etched into its walls? I tried to end it. I burned the charts, smashed the mirrors, screamed prayers until my voice gave out. The hospital roared, the water rising to the ceiling, the hum deafening. The shadow merged with mine, its eyes my own, whispering Rosa's name. I ran to the basement, clutching a photo of Rosa, begging the hospital to take me instead. The water parted, the hum softened, and the door slammed shut, sealing the ward. The shadow vanished, but I felt it inside me, a weight in my chest, like I'd given something up. I called Rosa, begging to see her, but she said she was sick, her voice distant, like she saw something I couldn't. I left St. Agnes the next day, telling Jake I couldn't go back. He didn't believe me and said I was paranoid. I moved to a new city, got a job at a coffee shop, and tried to rebuild it. The hum stopped, the water faded, but I don't trust it. I see the shadow sometimes, in reflections, in corners, always watching. Rosa won't talk to me, says she dreams of water, of a nurse's face. Mom's quiet, like she feels Maria too. I check mirrors, floors, shadows, afraid I'll see the ward again. I don't know if I broke the curse or fed it my hope, my love, my name. I'm writing this for True Horror Stories film because I need you to believe me. Maria's real, and she's patient. She's tied to my family, to St. Agnes, to something older than me. I thought I escaped. But sometimes I hear the hum, see the water rising in my dreams. I don't know if she's in the hospital or in me. The worst part is the doubt. Am I free, or is she still here, waiting for Rosa? If you explore a place that feels wrong, if you hear a hum, or see a shadow that's not yours, don't stay. Don't open the door. And if you see her, don't give her your guilt. She's already claimed it. Subscribe, like, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss what's next.
The Curse of St. Agnes. What if the dead refuse to leave, the living behind? Tonight on True Horror Stories film, we uncover a hospital where misty figures haunt the halls. Shadows linger by beds, and a child's voice calls from the darkness. Can a glowing presence shield you from what's coming? Subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell to fuel our chilling tales. Dim the lights, hold your breath, and let's step into the unknown. Lila Morgan started her first shift at St. Agnes Hospital with a knot in her stomach. The old building, perched on the edge of a sluggish river, smelled of antiseptic and decay. Locals whispered it was cursed, built on land where a 19th century orphanage burned down, claiming dozens of lives. Lila brushed it off. Hospitals were spooky by nature. But the CCTV monitors in the nurses' station told a different story. On her second night, scanning footage, Lila saw a misty human-shaped figure drifting through room 312. It moved with purpose, pacing, just as Mr. Callahan, a patient who died that morning, had done in life. The figure's edges blurred like fog on a windshield before vanishing. Lila replayed the tape, her pulse racing. Nothing. Just static. She told herself it was a glitch, but her hands shook as she checked on patients. In room 108, Mrs. Harrow, an elderly woman on life support, lay still. Lila adjusted her monitors, catching a flicker in the corner. A small, dark, shadow-like figure standing beside the bed. She blinked, and it was gone. Nurses passed through the spot, unaware. Later, Harrow's son reviewed the footage and gasped, "That's not right. Something was there." He called it a guide for her soul, but Lila felt it watching her. The next night, a critical patient, Mr. Reyes, stirred restlessly. As Lila checked his chart, a glowing arm appeared beside him, its light soft but unnatural. Reyes, barely conscious, smiled, muttering, "It's okay now." Lila rushed in, finding him asleep, his vitals stable. The footage showed only a faint shimmer. Whispers among staff called it an angel, but Lila's skin crawled angels didn't feel so cold. The hospital grew oppressive. Walking to her car one evening, Lila paused by the river. A child's voice, clear and desperate, called, "Nurse, help me." She spun, flashlight sweeping the empty bank. The water was still, but the voice echoed in her mind. Locals spoke of a girl lost in a crash years ago, her car submerged nearby. Lila's stomach churned. Had the river kept her? Her shifts blurred into nightmares. Monitoring Mr. Tate, a dying patient, Lila saw a shadowy shape rise from his body on the CCTV. It drifted upward, dissolving as the heart monitor flatlined. She rewatched the tape, trembling. A soul glitch, she thought, something stealing life. She confided in Dr. Ellis, who scoffed, blaming exhaustion. But Lila saw the fear in his eyes. One night, Lila spotted a girl in the hospital garden, no older than 8, kneeling by a bench. She smiled, waved, and leaned down as if kissing someone, whispering, "Goodbye, Mommy." Lila approached, but the girl was alone. Her aunt nearby filmed it, later showing Lila the footage. No one else appeared. "She lost her mother last year," the aunt said. "She saw her." Lila's blood ran cold. The hospital was a magnet for the dead. Digging into St. Agnes' past, Lila found records of unexplained deaths and a nurse who vanished by the river in 1985. A journal in the archives, stained and brittle red. The orphanage fire trapped them. They called from the river, the halls, the walls. That night, room 312's monitor flickered. The misty figure returned, joined by the shadowy visitor and the glowing arm. The child's voice echoed from the hall, "Help me!" Lights dimmed and monitors screamed, patients flatlining in unison. Lila ran to the security office, locking herself in. The CCTV showed the figures converging, the girl's silhouette among them waving. The door rattled, the river's voice louder. "Stay!" Lila fled St. Agnes that night, never returning. The hospital still stands, its monitors catching flickers of mist and shadow. The river whispers and locals avoid its banks, fearing what calls from the dark. The divine warning. What if the heavens sent a warning you couldn't ignore? Tonight, we explore a town where mirrors reveal glowing figures, skies form angelic signs, and a sacred portrait defies flames. Is it salvation or something darker? Sarah Klein returned to Eldwood, a sleepy town nestled in dense woods, to escape her grief. Her sister Emily had died in a car accident a year ago, and photographing old churches was Sarah's way of healing. St. Mary's, the town's crumbling chapel, was her latest project. Its stained glass windows glowed faintly, even at night, and locals whispered of miracles. Sarah, a skeptic, just wanted to capture its history. On her first visit, Sarah set up her camera in the vestry, where a dusty mirror hung crookedly. As she adjusted the lens, a faint hum filled the air like distant voices, chanting. In the mirror's reflection, a pale, glowing figure appeared, tall with shimmering wings. Sarah froze, her breath catching. The figure's eyes met hers, then vanished. A sharp crack echoed as the mirror shattered, glass scattering across the floor. Her photos showed only a faint blur, but the hum lingered in her ears. That night, Sarah attended a prayer service at St. Mary's. As the congregation sang, a soft light bloomed in the corner, growing into a radiant glow. Some gasped, whispering Virgin Mary, but Sarah saw a robed silhouette within, its edges pulsing unnaturally. The light faded, but her camera caught a faint outline, like a figure watching. The priest dismissed it as a candle's flicker, but Sarah's skin prickled. Something wasn't right. Driving home, she glanced at the sky. Above the woods, clouds twisted into an unmistakable shape. An angel, its wings sharp and feathered. Her camera clicked, capturing the sky messenger, but a chill settled in her bones. Locals later told her it appeared days before the town's last flood, a warning of disaster. Sarah checked her photos, finding a faint robbed figure suspended in the clouds, its gaze fixed downward. She hadn't seen it with her naked eye. The next day, a fire broke out at a parishioner's home. Sarah arrived to document the aftermath of the church's records. Amid the charred ruins, a portrait of the Virgin Mary stood untouched, its colors vibrant against the ash. Locals called it a miracle, but Sarah noticed a faint hum emanating from it, the same sound from the mirror. She reached out, and the air turned cold, the portrait's eyes seeming to follow her. Desperate for answers, Sarah researched St. Mary's history. In 1973, a baptism in the nearby woods had drawn crowds. Witnesses reported glowing, silent figures among the trees, believed to be angels honoring the event. But records hinted at a darker truth. The baptized child vanished days later, and the woods were never the same. Sarah visited the baptism site, her camera ready. As dusk fell, faint lights flickered among the trees, humanoid and luminous. The hum returned, louder, and her photos showed robbed figures, their faces blurred but intense. Back at her motel, Sarah's dreams were haunted by Emily's voice. "Pay attention, Sarah." She woke, heart pounding, and checked her footage. One frame showed a glowing figure in the woods, its hand outstretched toward her. The next day, she returned to St. Mary's, where the congregation spoke of a heavenly sign, a robed figure seen in the sky after Sunday Mass. Sarah's photos confirmed it, that the figure's outline matched the one in her dream, and the hum grew deafening. Panic set in. The signs weren't miracles. They were warnings. Sarah found an old journal in the church archives, its pages brittle. The woods guard a debt. The signs appear when it's time to pay. That night the church shook, lights flickering. The Virgin Mary portrait glowed, its hum now a wail. Sarah ran to the woods, where the glowing figures stood in a circle, their light blinding. Emily's voice whispered, "Run." Sarah fled Eldwood that night, her photos deleted, her camera abandoned. St. Mary's still stands, its mirror replaced, its portrait pristine. Locals speak of lights in the woods and angel-shaped clouds, but none stay long after dusk. The hum lingers, a reminder of a debt unpaid, and Sarah wonders if the heavens were ever truly kind. The Graveyard Keeper's Curse. I need you to hear this because it's been eating at me since I found it. I was scrolling through a late-night horror podcast's comment section, chasing the kind of stories that make your skin crawl, when I stumbled across a user's post. They call themselves Gravewarden91, and their story wasn't just creepy. It was raw, like they were still shaking as they typed. It was about working a summer job at an old graveyard and staying in a caretaker's house that felt wrong from the start. What happened there wasn't just a ghost story. It was something darker, something that latched onto them and wouldn't let go. My heart was pounding as I read, and now I can't unsee the images they painted. I'm sharing this because keeping it to myself feels like letting that thing win. You're going to feel it too, and I'm sorry about that. This is about Ethan Cole, a guy who thought a quiet graveyard job would be a break from his crumbling life. But something found him there. An old hag, a presence that knew his fears and fed on them. It started with sleep paralysis, but it grew into something shared, something that hunted him and his girlfriend, Lily. Reading his words made me feel his dread, his helplessness, like it was my own. This isn't just a story. It's a warning about what happens when you disturb something that's been waiting for you. I thought the graveyard would be my refuge. My life was a mess. Laid off from my construction job, fighting with my girlfriend Lily, and crashing at my mom's house in a small New England town. The summer gig at St. Mary's Cemetery sounded perfect. Cleaned the grounds, maintained the caretaker's house, live rent-free for 3 months. The house was old, creaky, built in the 1800s, and the last caretaker had died there. But I didn't care. I needed a reset. Lily moved in with me, hoping we could patch things up. But from the first night, I knew we weren't alone. The house, the graveyard, it was all wrong. And something was waiting for us. Something that knew our weaknesses and wanted to break us. The caretaker's house sat at the edge of the graveyard, surrounded by crooked headstones and gnarled trees. It smelled of dust and damp wood, the windows rattling in the wind. That first night I couldn't sleep. The air felt heavy, like it was pressing on my chest, and my anxiety, always a low hum, was screaming. I'd been struggling with it for years, always overthinking, always afraid I'd mess everything up. Lily was asleep beside me, her breathing soft, but I felt watched, like eyes were burning into me from the dark. Then it happened. I woke up, or thought I did, paralyzed. My body locked to the bed. My eyes darted around, but I couldn't move, couldn't scream. The room was darker than it should have been, the shadows thicker, like they were alive. I felt a presence, cold and heavy, like it was sitting on my soul. My heart pounded, my mind racing with panic. Was this my anxiety breaking me? Or was it something else? When I finally broke free, gasping, the room was empty, but I felt violated, like something had crawled inside my thoughts. The next night, Lily noticed it too. We were sitting in the living room trying to watch TV to calm my nerves when streaks of light flashed across the walls. Bright, jagged, like lightning inside the house. We checked the windows, but the graveyard was dark. No cars, no storms. My stomach twisted, and Lily's face was pale, her eyes wide with fear. "What was that, Ethan?" she whispered, grabbing my arm. I didn't know, but I felt it. A malice in the air, like the house was warning us to leave. My anxiety spiked, my thoughts spiraling. Was I imagining it? Was I dragging Lily into my mess? We didn't sleep much after that. Every creak of the house, every shadow in the graveyard felt like a threat. I started doubting myself, my sanity. I'd always feared losing control, and now it felt like it was happening. Lily tried to stay strong, but I could see her fraying, her smiles forced. I felt guilty, like my presence was poisoning her, just like I'd poisoned every relationship before. The house seemed to agree, its walls creaking like laughter. On the fourth night, it got worse. Lily woke up screaming, her body rigid, tears streaming down her face. She said she felt hands with claws creeping up her thighs, pinning her to the bed. I held her, my heart racing, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd brought this on us. My own sleep paralysis came back that night, and this time I saw her. A woman in black colonial attire, her face pale and wrinkled, her eyes black as coal. She stood between me and the bedroom door, her presence radiating hate, like she wanted to tear me apart. I tried to run, screaming for help, my voice echoing in the dark. Then Lily shook me awake, her face terrified. "You were screaming," she said. But you weren't moving. I told her about the lady in black, and her eyes widened. She'd seen her too, in her paralysis, the same figure trying to strangle her, claws tightening around her throat. We clung to each other, shaking, the house feeling smaller, like it was closing in. I felt helpless, my spirit crushed under the weight of something I couldn't fight. Was this my fault? Had my failures, my fights with Lily, invited this thing? The guilt was suffocating, and the hag's black eyes seemed to know it, feeding on my shame. Desperate, I started searching online, joining a local paranormal support group on a whim. One member, an older woman named Clara, shared a story that chilled me. She'd known someone who'd lived in the caretaker's house years ago, a man who'd seen the same lady in black. He'd had sleep paralysis, seen streaks of light, felt her hate. It drove him to suicide, unable to escape her. Clara said the house was cursed, tied to a hag that latched onto families, hunting them across generations. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just a ghost. It was something older, something that chose us. Clara taught us a ritual. Salt lines at the doors. Sage burned in every room. Prayers whispered to drive the hag away. We did it that night. The house was thick with smoke, our voices trembling. The air felt lighter afterward, the whispers gone, the shadows quieter. I thought we'd won, but I couldn't shake the fear that we'd only made her angry. Lily was distant, her eyes haunted, and I felt like I'd failed her again. My anxiety was a constant weight, my thoughts a maze of doubt and dread. A week later, I found an old box in the house's attic, filled with the last caretaker's things. Letters, photos, a journal. The journal described the hag, the paralysis, the lights, just like we'd experienced. But the last entry stopped me cold. She's after my blood, my kin. She won't stop. I dug deeper and found a letter from my great-uncle, a man I barely remembered. He'd worked at St. Mary's decades ago, lived in this house. He wrote about seeing her, feeling her claws, hearing her whispers. My heart sank. This wasn't random. She was tied to my family, following us, waiting for someone weak enough to break. I called my mom. My voice was shaking. She didn't want to talk, but I pushed, and she admitted it. She'd seen the hag when she was young, after my great-uncle died. She dreamed of her, felt her choke her in the night, but it stopped when I was born, like the hag had moved on. She never told me because she thought it was over, that she'd protected me by staying silent. But her silence felt like betrayal, like she'd left me to face this alone. I felt crushed, my spirit breaking under the weight of a curse I didn't choose. The hag's laughter echoed in my mind, mocking my pain, my family's secrets. The ritual didn't hold. One night, Lily woke up screaming, clawing at her throat, fighting an invisible force. I saw it too, an old withered face hovering over her, its black eyes gleaming with rage. I grabbed her, shouting her name, and the face turned to me, its mouth twisting into a smile. Lily gasped, free, but we were both shaking, our hearts pounding in sync. We'd seen the same thing, felt the same hate. The hag wasn't just in the house. She was in us, tied to my blood, my guilt, my fear of failing everyone I loved. I found a hidden page in the journal, written in my great-uncle's shaky hand. I realized then what she was after. Not just me, but the part of me I'd buried, the hope I'd lost when I pushed Lily away, when I let my life fall apart. She was feeding on my despair, growing stronger every time I broke. I tried another ritual, scattering salt, burning sage, chanting prayers until my voice gave out. The house shook, the windows rattling, and I heard her scream, a sound that tore through my skull. But when it stopped, I felt her inside me, a weight in my chest, like she'd claimed a piece of me. We left the house the next day, moving back to my mom's, quitting the job without explanation. The graveyard was quiet, but I felt its eyes on us as we drove away. The whispers stopped. The paralysis faded, but I don't trust it. Lily's different now, quieter, her eyes darting to shadows. We don't talk about it, but I know she feels her too. My mom won't meet my eyes, like she knows the hag's still out there waiting. I check the windows at night, the doors, the mirrors, afraid I'll see her face. I don't know if we escaped, or if we just fed her what she wanted. My hope, my strength, my name. I'm writing this because I need you to believe me. The hag is real, and she's patient. She's been with my family for generations, maybe longer, and no amount of salt or sage can stop her. I thought we got away, but sometimes I hear her whisper, feel her claws in the dark. I don't know if she's in the graveyard, in me, or in Lily. The worst part is the doubt. Am I free? Or is she still here, waiting for me to break again? If you work in a place that feels wrong, if you see streaks of light or feel a weight on your chest, don't stay. Don't give her your name. And if you see her, run, because she knows you're already hers.
The lighthouse keeper's whisper. Sit close, because I need to tell you something that's been haunting me for months. I found this story by accident, buried in a dusty journal I bought at an estate sale in a small coastal town in Maine. The journal belonged to a lighthouse keeper, and its pages were filled with frantic handwritten entries that made my skin crawl. I couldn't stop reading, even as my heart raced and my hands trembled. The keeper's words felt like a confession, a desperate plea to be heard. I don't know if it's true, but it felt so real, so raw, that it stayed with me, gnawing at my thoughts. I'm sharing this because I can't carry it alone. It's too heavy, too dark. You need to hear it, but I warn you, it'll stick with you too. This is the story of Abigail Morse, a woman who took a job as a lighthouse keeper to escape her fractured family and her own unraveling mind. She thought the isolation would heal her, but something was waiting in that lonely tower. A voice, a presence that knew her deepest fears. The first chilling moment came when she heard her name whispered in the dead of night, not from outside, but from inside the lighthouse. It broke something in me, reading her words, feeling her terror. I'm telling you this because it's more than a story. It's a warning about what happens when you let guilt and fear invite something in. I thought the lighthouse would save me. After years of fighting with my brother Daniel, of carrying the weight of my mother's disappointment, I needed to get away. The job was perfect. A remote lighthouse on a jagged cliff in the North Atlantic, miles from anyone. Just me, the ocean, and the light to keep ships safe. I'd always been good at being alone, or so I thought. But from the moment I stepped into that tower, I felt it. A wrongness, like the air itself was watching me. The lighthouse wasn't a sanctuary. It was a cage, and something was already inside with me. The first night, I heard it. I was climbing the spiral stairs to the lantern room, my footsteps echoing on the iron steps, when a voice, soft, feminine, almost tender, whispered my name, Abigail. It was so clear, so close. I spun around, expecting someone behind me. But the stairwell was empty, the only sound the distant crash of waves. My heart pounded, and a cold sweat broke out on my neck. I told myself it was the wind, or maybe my imagination, warped by the isolation. I'd been diagnosed with anxiety years ago, And my therapist warned me about overthinking, about letting my mind twist shadows into threats. But this felt different. It felt personal. I didn't sleep that night. The lighthouse was old, its stone walls damp and cold, the air thick with the smell of salt and mildew. My small living quarters, a cot, a desk, a single window facing the endless sea, felt too small. Like the walls were pressing in. I kept the radio on, hoping the static would drown out my thoughts, but every creak of the tower made me jump. I felt like a child again, scared of the dark. Only this time, the dark seemed to know my name. By the end of the first week, I was exhausted, my nerves frayed from lack of sleep. That's when the dream came. I was standing at the base of the lighthouse, where a rusted iron gate separated the cliff from the rocky shore. In the dream, the gate rattled, and a figure appeared. An old woman, her hair long and gray, tangled like seaweed. Her face was pale, almost translucent, with eyes like black stones, unblinking. She pressed against the gate, her bony fingers curling around the bars, and hissed, "Give me the child!" Her voice was the same one I'd heard, soft but sharp, cutting through the fog. I felt a surge of protective rage, like she was threatening someone I loved, though I had no child. I shouted at her to leave, my voice trembling with fear and defiance. She smiled, a crooked, knowing grin, and slipped back into the mist. I woke up gasping, my chest tight, the dream so vivid I could still smell the salt and hear the gate creaking. My hands shook as I wrote it down in my journal, trying to make sense of it. I told myself it was just a nightmare, born of stress and solitude. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. The hag felt real, like she'd been waiting for me to close my eyes so she could get closer. I started to dread sleep, afraid of what I'd see, or what I'd hear. The whispers didn't stop. They came at random, while I was polishing the lighthouse lens, cooking a meager meal, or staring out at the gray horizon. Abigail. Sometimes it was a murmur, sometimes a hiss, always just behind me. I started checking every corner of the tower, convinced someone was hiding. But there was nowhere to hide in that cramped circular space. My anxiety spiraled, and I caught myself talking out loud, arguing with the voice, begging it to leave me alone. I felt like I was losing my grip, like the line between reality and delusion was blurring. Was this schizophrenia? Was I breaking apart? I'd always been afraid of my mind betraying me, and now it seemed to be happening. I called Daniel one night, using the satellite phone, desperate for a familiar voice. We hadn't spoken in years, not since I'd lashed out at him during one of my panic attacks, accusing him of abandoning me when Mom got sick. His voice was cold, distant, but I didn't care. I told him about the whispers, the dream, my fear that I was going crazy. He didn't believe me, said I was making it up for attention just like I always had. His words cut deep, reopening old wounds. I hung up, feeling more alone than ever, and the whispers laughed, a low, guttural chuckle that made my stomach turn. A month in, I found something that changed everything. While cleaning the storage room, I discovered a box of old keeper logs, their pages yellowed and brittle. One entry, dated decades ago, described a keeper hearing a voice calling their name, followed by dreams of a hag at the gate. The keeper wrote about feeling watched, about objects moving on their own, keys, books, even a knife left on the counter. My breath caught as I read the final line. She wants something from me, but I don't know what. I fear it's my soul. The log ended abruptly. No explanation, no resolution. I felt a chill, like the tower itself was confirming my fears. This wasn't just in my head. Something was here, and it had been here for a long time. I started to piece things together, or tried to. My mother had always talked about bad feelings in our family, moments she couldn't explain. When I was a kid, she told me about a dream she had while pregnant with me, a hag offering her something wrong, something she refused. She'd never told me the details, just that it scared her so much she prayed for days. I hadn't thought about it in years, but now it felt like a clue. Had the hag followed my family? Was it tied to me? To my guilt over pushing Mom and Daniel away? The thought made me feel small, helpless. Like I was a pawn in something bigger than myself. The second month, the hag came closer. I woke up one night, paralyzed, my body heavy as if pinned to the cot. She was there, standing at the foot of my bed, her black eyes gleaming in the moonlight. Her presence filled the room, oppressive, like a storm about to break. She leaned over me, her face inches from mine, and whispered, "Give me the child." My heart pounded, but I couldn't move, couldn't scream. Her hand reached out, cold and claw-like, brushing my cheek. I felt a wave of shame, of failure. Like every mistake I'd ever made was laid bare before her. I was nothing, nobody, just a broken woman in a broken tower. When I could finally move, I scrambled to the window, gasping for air. The gate outside was open, swinging in the wind, though I swore I'd locked it. I ran down the stairs, my flashlight shaking in my hand, and slammed the gate shut, chaining it tight. But as I turned back, I saw her shadow on the cliff watching me. I felt like I was drowning in my own fear, my own inadequacy. I didn't know what she wanted, but I knew I couldn't give it to her. Not because I was strong, but because I had nothing left to give. Desperate for answers, I called my mother. It was a risk. She hadn't spoken to me since our last fight, when I'd screamed at her for siding with Daniel. But I needed to know about her dream, about the hag. Her voice was shaky when she answered, like she'd been expecting my call. She told me something that turned my blood cold. When Daniel was a baby, she'd heard the voice too, calling his name. She'd had the same dream, the hag at the gate, demanding the child. She'd fought it off, just like I had. But Daniel had suffered night terrors for years, waking up screaming about a woman watching him. She'd never told me because she thought it was over, that she'd protected us. But it wasn't over. Mom admitted that recently. Daniel had started hearing the voice again, whispering his name at night. He told her about knocking at his apartment window, a window on the 5th floor, with no balcony or ledge. She was terrified, convinced that whatever this was, it was tied to our family, to some curse we didn't understand. I hung up, my mind reeling. The hag wasn't just after me. She was after all of us. And she'd been waiting for years, maybe generations. I felt a crushing weight of guilt. If I'd stayed closer to my family, could I have stopped this? Was I the one who let her in? I went back to the keeper's logs, searching for anything that could help. One entry mentioned a ritual, a way to appease the hag by offering what she seeks. It didn't say what, but it warned that refusing her would only make her stronger. I started to wonder if the child wasn't a person but something else. My hope, my sanity, my future. The hag was feeding on my fears, my regrets, twisting them into something tangible. I felt like I was being hollowed out, my thoughts no longer my own. Every time I heard the voice, I saw flashes of my life. Fights with Daniel, Mom's disappointed eyes, my own reflection warped and unrecognizable. Then I found it, a hidden page in the log, tucked into the binding. It wasn't in the keeper's handwriting, it was in mine. I don't know how, but there it was, dated from before I'd even arrived at the lighthouse. It described the hag, the gate, the voice, and a single line. She wants the child you never were. My heart stopped. The child wasn't Daniel, or me, or some literal baby. It was the part of me I'd buried, the innocent, hopeful girl I'd been before anxiety, before guilt, before I pushed everyone away. The hag wanted my spirit, the piece of me I'd lost long ago. I tried to fight her. I found an old book of prayers in the storage room, chants meant to protect against evil. I read them aloud, my voice shaking, hoping they'd drive her away. But the whispers grew louder, mocking me, and the gate outside rattled every night. no matter how many chains I added. One night, I woke to find my journal open, new words written in my handwriting. Give her to me. I burned the page, but the next night it was back. The words darker, as if written in blood. I left the lighthouse a week later, unable to take it anymore. I told the Coast Guard I was sick, that I couldn't handle the isolation. They didn't ask questions, just sent a replacement. I moved back to the mainland, rented a small apartment, tried to start over. But the whispers followed me. They're softer now, but they're there, calling my name when I'm alone. Daniel won't talk to me, and Mom says he's getting worse, hearing the knocking every night. I check my windows, my doors, my mirrors, terrified I'll see her face. I don't know if she's still in the lighthouse or if she's inside me, waiting. I'm writing this because I need someone to know, to believe me. The hag is real, and she's patient. She's been with my family for years, maybe forever, and I don't know how to stop her. Sometimes I wonder if I gave her what she wanted. My hope, my strength, without even realizing it. The worst part is the doubt. Am I crazy, or is she really there? I hear her voice in the quiet moments, see her shadow in the corner of my eye. If you hear your name, whispered in the dark, don't answer. Don't open the gate. And whatever you do, don't let her in.
The Fire Lookout's curse. Gather close, friends, because I need to share something that's been clawing at my heart ever since I stumbled across it. A few years back, I was digging through old forums, the kind of obscure corners of the internet where people post stories too wild to be believed. That's when I found a thread on a now-defunct horror blog buried under a pile of forgotten posts. Someone named Lost in the Woods, 87, shared a tale so chilling it stuck with me, like a shadow you can shake. They claimed it happened to them while working as a fire lookout in the remote forests of the Pacific Northwest. I don't know if it's true, but the way it was written, raw, desperate, like they were spilling their soul, made me feel their fear. It wasn't just a story, it was a warning. My hands shook as I read it, and even now, retelling it makes my chest tight. I have to share this because keeping it to myself feels like letting something dark win. This is the story of Elias Kane, a man who thought he could escape his past by isolating himself in a fire lookout tower. But what we found there wasn't solitude. It was something ancient, something that knew his name. The first unsettling moment came when he noticed the carvings on the tower's walls, symbols that seemed to shift when he wasn't looking. From there, it only got worse. I felt his dread, his paranoia, like it was my own. I'm telling you this because I can't unsee the images it painted in my mind, and I don't think you'll be able to either. I'd always thought solitude would fix me. After the mess I made of my life, burning bridges with my sister Clara, losing friends to my own stubborn pride, I figured a summer in a fire lookout tower would be my reset button. The job was simple. Sit in a 12 by 12 box perched on a mountain ridge in the Cascades, watch for smoke, report it. No people, no drama. Just me, the trees, and the endless sky. I was wrong. So wrong. The tower wasn't a refuge. It was a trap, and something was waiting for me up there, something that knew every crack in my soul. The first night in the tower, I felt heavy in the air, like the forest was holding its breath. The tower was old, wooden, creaking with every gust of wind. It had a single room with a coat, a desk, a radio, and a panoramic window that made me feel like I was floating above the world. I was unpacking my gear when I noticed the carvings on the walls, strange, spiraling symbols etched into the wood, worn but deliberate. They weren't random. They felt intentional. My stomach twisted, but I told myself it was just vandalism, some bored lookouts art project. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that the symbols were watching me. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I swore I heard whispering. Not words, just a low, guttural hum, like voices muffled by the wind. I sat up, heart pounding, staring out the window into the dark. The forest was a sea of shadows, and the moon cast jagged shapes across the trees. I told myself it was just nerves, the isolation playing tricks. But deep down, I knew something was off. I felt exposed, like I was being studied. By the third day, I was settling in, or so I thought. I had mapped out the ridges, learned the radio codes, and started to feel like I could handle this. Then I saw her. I was scanning the horizon with binoculars when a flicker of movement caught my eye, down by the tree line. A figure, tall, thin, draped in something tattered and gray, stood motionless, staring up at the tower. My breath caught. There wasn't supposed to be anyone out here. The nearest trailhead was 20 miles away, and I hadn't heard a single hiker on the radio. I lowered the binoculars, rubbed my eyes, and looked again. She was gone. My heart hammered, but I convinced myself it was a trick of the light, maybe a deer or a shadow. Still, my hands shook as I logged the day's observations. That night I dreamed of her, a woman with long, craggy gray hair, her face pale and greenish, her eyes black voids that swallowed the light. She smiled, a wide, unnatural grin, and I woke up gasping, my body frozen, unable to move. Sleep paralysis, I told myself. Just sleep paralysis. But the air felt thick, like it was pressing down on me, and I swore I could still see her smile in the dark. A week in, the carvings started to change. I noticed it one morning while brewing coffee. The symbols on the wall, those same spirals and jagged lines, weren't where I remembered them. They'd shifted just slightly, forming new patterns. I ran my fingers over them, my skin crawling. The wood felt warm, almost alive. I told myself I was imagining it, that I was just overtired. But I started sketching the carvings in my notebook, trying to track them. Every day, they were different. My sketches didn't match. I stopped sleeping altogether, too afraid to close my eyes. The whispers came back, louder now, weaving into my thoughts. They weren't just sounds. They were words, fragmented and cruel. "You can't run," they hissed. "You brought this here." I started to doubt myself, my memories. Had I done something to invite this? My past wasn't clean. Clara's tearful voice still echoed in my head, accusing me of abandoning her when she needed me most. Was this my punishment? The guilt gnawed at me, and the tower felt smaller every day, like it was closing in. It was the second week when she came closer. I woke up, or thought I did, paralyzed again, my body heavy as stone. She was there at the foot of my cot, her gray hair spilling over her shoulders like a shroud. Her face was worse up close, skin like damp moss, eyes like bottomless pits. She moved slowly and deliberately, climbing onto the cot. My chest tightened as she knelt on me, her weight crushing my lungs. I couldn't scream, couldn't move. Her smile widened, and she leaned closer, her breath cold and sour like rotting leaves. "You're mine," she whispered, her voice scraping inside my skull. Her hand crept down my face, fingers like ice, hooking under my top teeth. She pulled my head back, slow and deliberate, and I felt my jaw strain, my throat exposed. The pain was sharp, but the fear was worse. A primal, helpless terror that drowned out everything else. I was nothing in that moment, just a vessel for her malice. Then just as suddenly she was gone, and I jolted upright, gasping, my body slick with sweat. The carvings on the wall pulsed, or maybe that was my vision blurring. I didn't know what was real anymore. The days blurred together after that. I stopped eating, stopped radioing in. My logs became frantic scribbles, sketches of her face, the carvings, half-formed pleas for help. I called Clara once, left a rambling voicemail begging for forgiveness. She didn't call back. I didn't blame her. The whispers were constant now, weaving into my thoughts, telling me I deserved this. I started seeing her everywhere, outside the window, in the reflection of the glass, even in the shadows of my own hands. I tried to fight it. I found an old book in the tower's storage, a dusty journal from a previous lookout. It mentioned the carvings, called them wards meant to keep something out or in. The lookout wrote about her too, describing the same hag, the same crushing weight. They'd tried to burn the tower down to stop her. I considered it, but I was too afraid. What if she followed me? What if she was already inside me? One night I found a new carving, a symbol shaped like a hand, its fingers curled inward. I stared at it, my heart sinking. It was my hand. I don't know how I knew, but I did. The tower wasn't just haunted. It was alive, and it was rewriting itself with pieces of me. I felt my mind slipping, my memories fracturing. Was I Elias Kane, or was I something else? Had I ever been free? Desperate for answers, I started tearing the tower apart, looking for anything that could explain to her. Under the cot, I found a small, cracked mirror hidden in a dusty box. I held it up and my reflection stared back, but it wasn't me. It was her black eyes boring into mine, her smile stretching wider than humanly possible. I dropped the mirror and it shattered, the shards scattering across the floor. But the pieces didn't show the room. They showed her crawling toward me, her limbs bending at wrong angles. I screamed, backing into the wall, and the carvings burned under my touch. The whispers roared, a chorus of accusations. You invited her, you carved her name. I couldn't have. But the doubt was a knife in my gut. Had I done this? Had my guilt, my shame, my failures summoned her? I remembered Clara's last words to me. You're a curse, Elias. Maybe she was right. I went back to the journal, reading it covers to cover. The final entry stopped me from catching a cold. It wasn't written by the previous lookout. It was written by me. My handwriting, my words describing the hag, the carvings, the mirror. But I'd never written it. The date was from last week, before I'd even arrived. My head spun. Was I trapped in some kind of loop? Had I been here before, over and over, each time forgetting? The journal mentioned a ritual, a way to banish her, but it required a sacrifice. Give her what she wants, it said. Give her your name. I didn't understand, but I was desperate. I carved my name into the wall, next to the hand symbol. My hands shaking so badly I cut my fingers. The blood soaked into the wood and the tower groaned like it was alive. The air grew heavy and she appeared, not on the cot, but standing in the center of the room, her smile gone. You're mine, she said again, but this time her voice was mine, too layered, like an echo of my own thoughts. I don't know what happened next. I woke up outside, miles from the tower, my clothes torn, my hands caked in dirt and blood. The forest was silent, no whispers, no hag. But I felt her inside me, a weight in my chest that never left. I made it to a ranger station, told them I'd gotten lost. They didn't believe me, but they didn't ask questions. I never went back to the tower. I couldn't. I tried to call Clara again, to warn her, to apologize, but her number was disconnected. I found out later she'd moved, left no forwarding address. Maybe she knew. Maybe she always knew. I'm writing this now because I need someone to know, to believe me. The carvings, the hag, the tower, they're still out there, waiting. And sometimes when I close my eyes, I see her smile, feel her fingers on my face. I don't know if I escaped or if I just brought her with me. I don't sleep much anymore. Every night, I check my walls, my mirrors, my hands, looking for carvings for her. I tell myself I'm free, but I don't believe it. The air feels heavy sometimes, like it did in the tower, and I swear I hear whispers in the dark. Maybe it's just my mind broken by what happened. Or maybe she's still here, waiting for me to slip, to give her what she wants. I don't know what's real anymore, and that's the worst part. If you're reading this, check your walls. Check your mirrors. And if you see her, don't say her name. The Haunting of Haven House. What if your home held secrets the dead can't keep? We explore a house where mists hover over sleepers, shadows mimic lost pets, and glowing lights guard or threaten. Is it protection or a trap? Rachel Harper stood on the porch of Haven House, a sprawling Victorian in rural Maine, her son Noah clinging to her hand. The house, inherited from her estranged aunt, was a fresh start after her husband's death 2 years ago. Its sagging roof and peeling paint screamed neglect, but Rachel saw potential, a place to rebuild. Noah, 6, pointed at the overgrown yard. "Can we get a dog like Rusty?" he asked, his voice small. Rusty, their golden retriever, had died with her husband in the accident. Rachel forced a smile. "Maybe, buddy." The first night, Rachel unpacked while Noah slept. The house creaked, its wooden floors groaning underfoot. She dismissed it as old bones settling, but a faint hum, like a distant radio, prickled her ears. She checked the windows, all locked, and laughed off her nerves. Grief made you jumpy. But as she lay in bed, sleep paralysis gripped her. Her body froze, eyes locked on the ceiling. A faint mist hovered above, humanoid, its edges swirling like smoke. Her heart pounded as a pen on her nightstand rolled, then flew, striking her cheek. The mist descended, merging with her chest. She gasped awake, the hum gone, the pen on the floor. Rachel installed a security camera the next day, blaming stress. She didn't believe in ghosts. Haven House was just old. But Noah's laughter drew her outside, where he danced in the yard, spinning with an imaginary friend. Her phone footage showed a strange light, faint and golden, trailing him like a shadow. It pulsed, following his steps, then vanished. Rachel's breath caught. Her father, battling cancer, used to dance with Noah like that. Was it him, or something else? The hum returned that night, louder from the attic. Checking the camera footage, Rachel saw a dog-sized shadow on the screen door, pacing like Rusty used to. Her eyes welled. Rusty had been her protector. She opened the door, but nothing was there. The footage replayed the shadow, its outline too sharp, too deliberate. Noah ran to her, whispering, "Rusty's back, Mommy." Rachel hugged him, but the hum grew. Now a low whisper, "Stay." She slammed the door, her skepticism cracking. Haven House wasn't empty. Days later, walking home from town, Rachel noticed a man ahead, unaware of a speeding car. Her camera caught a translucent, glowing shield-like shape flicker behind him, then vanished. The car swerved, missing him. Locals called it a guardian angel, but Rachel felt a chill. The shield's light matched the one following Noah. She scoured the house history, finding a diary in the attic, its pages yellowed. "The house keeps them. Lights, shadows, mists. They never leave." The previous owner, a widow, had vanished after reporting visitations. One evening, Rachel saw a glowing orb outside, hovering near Noah's swing. It pulsed softly, and a wave of calm washed over her, like Rusty's warm nudge. She smiled, tears falling, believing it was him. But the calm shattered when Noah screamed from his room. She ran, finding him frozen, eyes wide. "The mist lady was here," he whispered. Rachel checked the camera. Nothing. But the hum became voices pleading. Don't go. Rachel's sleep paralysis worsened. Each night, the mist returned. Heavier. Objects crashing around her. Books. A lamp. A photo frame. Footage showed the mist hovering, its shape clearer. A woman's face forming. Rachel researched deeper, uncovering a tragedy. The house's first owners, the Warrens, lost their daughter, Eliza, in 1890. She died in the attic, and her mother, Margaret, claimed spirits lingered, protecting or trapping her. One night, Noah wandered to the attic, drawn by whispers. Rachel followed, her flashlight catching a shadowy mist rising from the floor, like a soul departing. It drifted toward Noah, who smiled, unafraid. She says she's lonely, he said. Rachel grabbed him, the hum now a scream. The glowing orb appeared, joined by the shield and the dog-sized shadow. The mist woman's voice echoed, "Stay with us." Rachel fled with Noah, locking the attic. She contacted a local historian, who revealed Haven House was built on a burial ground. It's dead restless. The diary's final entry read, "Eliza calls. The house won't let us go." That night the phenomena converged, mists in every room, the orb blazing, the shadow pacing, the shield flickering. Voices chanted, "Stay?" Rachel packed to leave, but Noah vanished. She found him in the attic, speaking to the air. "I'll play with you." The mist woman loomed, her face Eliza's. Rachel screamed, pulling Noah free. The house shook, lights exploding. She ran, clutching Noah, the orb following, the shadows snarling. Outside, the hum faded, but the house's windows glowed, faces forming in the glass. Rachel never returned. Haven House stands empty, its lights flickering, its shadows moving. Locals hear whispers, see orbs, and avoid its yard, where a dog's shadow still paces, waiting for someone to claim. The Haunting of Willow Inn. What if the very walls designed to shelter you become silent sentinels of a sinister past, guarding secrets too dark for the light of day? Here, we invite you into an accursed inn where the chilling mists of ancient tragedies still rise from forgotten crashes, malevolent shadows cling to every bedpost, and an unholy glowing sign pulses with unspeakable warnings. Is this a beacon of divine protection, or a meticulously laid trap from which no soul truly escapes? Lock your doors, extinguish the lights, and prepare to step into a nightmare from which there is no walking. Let's begin. Emma Larson's tires crunched on the gravel drive of the Willow Inn, a sagging guest house in rural Vermont, its wooden beams weathered by time and neglect. The sky above was starless, heavy with clouds that seemed to press down on the roof. At 34, Emma was a travel writer chasing stories of forgotten places, but this trip was different. A year ago, her father, Henry, had died in a sudden heart attack, and the open road was her way to outrun the grief that clung to her like damp air. The inn, surrounded by rolling fields and a quiet road that stretched into darkness, was her latest subject. Rumors swirled about its hauntings, ghostly lights, whispers, shadows. But Emma, ever the skeptic, arrived with her notebook and camera, ready to debunk the tales. The inn's foyer smelled of old wood and lavender, its walls lined with faded wallpaper curling at the edges. Mrs. Harrow, the innkeeper, was a wiry woman in her 60s, her smile tight as she handed Emma the key to room 7. "Quiet night," she said, her eyes darting to the window. "Mind the road out there." Emma nodded, dismissing the caution as small-town superstition. As she climbed the creaking stairs, a faint hum greeted her like distant bells tolling in the wind. She paused, listening, but it faded, leaving only the groan of the inn settling. In her room, Emma set up her workspace, a small desk by a window overlooking the fields. The bed's quilt was patchwork, the floorboards uneven, and the air carried a chill despite the radiator's hiss. She unpacked her camera, a Canon with a knack for catching details she missed, and jotted notes. Willow Inn, EST 1872. Local lore. Haunted by spirits tied to road accidents. Debunk likely. The hum returned, soft but persistent, vibrating in her chest. She shook it off, blaming fatigue from the drive, and crawled into bed, the darkness thick around her. Past midnight, a screech of tires and a sickening crunch woke Emma. She bolted upright, heart pounding, and grabbed her camera. From her window, she saw headlights skewed in the ditch across the road. A car crumpled against a tree. She threw on her coat and ran outside, the cold biting her skin. The air was heavy, the hum louder now, almost a chant. She started filming, her lens trained on the wreckage. The driver, a man in his 40s, stumbled from the car, unharmed but shaken. I swerved to avoid something, he muttered, eyes wide. Smoke, maybe. Emma's footage told a different story. A white mist rose from the vehicle, not smoke but a humanoid shape, glowing faintly, its edges blurred like a figure in a dream. It hovered, then vanished into the night sky. The driver swore he saw nothing, but Emma's skin prickled. The hum pulsed, urgently, as if warning her to look closer. Back in her room, she reviewed the footage, her hands trembling. The mist was undeniable, its form vaguely human, with arms outstretched as if reaching for something. Or someone. Locals at breakfast whispered of a divine presence that protected travelers on the road, a spirit that appeared after crashes. Emma scoffed, but the hum lingered, now a low murmur, and her skepticism wavered. As she sipped her coffee, she noticed a small dark shadow by her bed in the corner of her eye, motionless, child-sized. She blinked, and it was gone. Her camera, left recording on the desk, caught it, a fleeting shape, unnoticed by the inn staff when she asked. Mrs. Harrow only pursed her lips, saying, "Old places have tricks." The next day, Emma's sister, Rachel, arrived with her 8-year-old son, Tim. They were visiting to check on Emma, their worry evident since Henry's death. Tim, a bundle of energy, ran through the inn's garden, chasing a stray dog among the overgrown roses. Emma watched, her camera rolling, a smile tugging at her lips. Her father had loved playing with Tim, tossing a ball with the same enthusiasm. The memory stung, sharp and raw. As Tim darted through the grass, a strange light trailed him, pulsing gold like sunlight breaking through clouds. Emma's footage showed it clearly, circling him, almost protective. It moved as Henry used to, mirroring his playful stride. Was her breath caught him? The hum became a whisper, soft but clear. Stay. Tim noticed nothing, laughing as he ran, but Rachel frowned, sensing the air's weight. This place feels off, she said, pulling Tim close. That evening, Emma showed Rachel the footage. Her sister paled, whispering, "Dad?" They sat in silence, the hum growing louder, now a chorus of voices, indistinct but pleading. Emma's notebook filled with questions, missed from crash. Shadow by bed. Light with Tim. Connected. She tried to rationalize it. Optics, fatigue, grief playing tricks, but the hum felt alive, watching her. That night, the inn's guests gathered outside, drawn by a strange sight. Above the willow, a cloud formation took shape, a glowing cross, radiant around the moon. Guests murmured some praying, calling it a heavenly sign. Emma snapped photos, her camera capturing the cross, but within it a face emerged, faint but unmistakable. It wasn't divine, It was Henry's, his eyes wide, his mouth set in a warning. The hum became a scream, sharp and desperate. "Run!" Emma's photos confirmed it, the face clear and a glowing cross. She showed Mrs. Harrow, who crossed herself and muttered, "Not the first time." The innkeeper's evasiveness fueled Emma's resolve. She dug into the inn's history, finding a journal in the attic, its pages brittle, dated 1890. The author, a former innkeeper, wrote, "The willow binds them. Lights, shadows, mists, they claim the lost. They wear familiar faces, but they are not what they seem." The journal mentioned accidents on the road, each followed by sightings, mists, lights, shadows, all tied to the inn. Emma met a local teen, Jamie, who'd survived a cardiac arrest near the inn 6 months ago. Over coffee at a diner, they spoke of a radiant man who appeared as he collapsed, saying, "It's okay." The words were Henry's, a phrase he'd used to comfort Emma as a child. Jamie's eyes were haunted, his voice low. "He's still here," he said, pointing toward the inn. Emma showed him her footage of the mist and the light. He nodded. "That's him, but he's not saving you." Emma's nights grew restless, the hum a constant drone, now laced with whispers of her name. She set up the inn's CCTV, borrowed from Mrs. Harrow, to monitor her room. The footage showed a glowing figure, faint but clear, patting a stray dog outside, just as Henry had done. The dog wagged its tail, unafraid, but Emma's heart pounded. The figure turned, its face obscured, and the hum screamed, "Stay!" She checked the journal again, finding a pattern. The inn spirits used familiar forms, loved ones, protectors, to lure the living, binding them to the willow. She confronted Mrs. Harrow, who admitted the inn's dark past. Built on land where a stagecoach accident killed a family in 1870, the willow trapped their spirits and others who died nearby. The mists, lights, and shadows were their manifestations, feeding on grief to grow stronger. Henry's death, so close to the inn, had tied him to it, or something wearing his face. Emma's footage, her photos, her notes, they were evidence, but also anchors, drawing her deeper into the inn's grasp. On her final night, Emma packed her bag, the hum deafening, the air thick with unseen eyes. Shadows moved in her peripheral vision, the golden light flickering outside her window. The CCTV showed the glowing figure again, now standing by her door, its hand raised as if knocking. The journal's words echoed. They claimed the lost. Emma realized the truth. The spirits weren't protecting her. They were proclaiming her, using Henry's image to keep her here. She grabbed her camera and ran, the inn's halls narrowing, the hum and cacophony of voices. Henry's, Jamie's, others unknown, screaming, "Stay!" The front door loomed, but shadows clung to her, cold and heavy. She burst outside, the cross in the sky gone, the air silent. She drove away, the inn shrinking in her rearview mirror, but the hum followed, a whisper in her mind. The world saw Emma's footage, the creeping mist, the elusive shadow, the unearthly light, and the stark cross. Audiences were gripped, their online reactions, a maelstrom of theories ranging from divine miracle to pure malevolence. The Willow Inn still stands, a gaunt silhouette against the fading light, its vacant windows reflecting only darkness, and its timbers moaning with unseen stress. Even now, townsfolk give it a wide berth after sunset, exchanging hushed tales of strange lights and phantom voices emanating from its depth. Emma vanished after that night, but an unsettling resonance persists, and in every encroaching shadow her father's face appears, forever beckoning her back to the inn where sleep is a forgotten luxury. The hotel's lost guest. What if the place where you work isn't just a building, but a living thing that knows your secrets and feeds on your pain? When I stumbled across a post by Night Desk Ghost, Their words were frantic, like they were typing to stay sane, describing a night shift at a historic hotel in New Orleans that wasn't just haunted, but it was hungry. The story hit me like a cold wind, my heart racing, my hands shaking as I read about a child in the courtyard, a humming in the walls, and a door that appeared from nowhere. I'm sharing this for True Horror Stories Film because I can't carry it alone. It's too dark, too real. Hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss what's next. Trust me, this one's going to haunt you long after you hear it. This is about Sophie Laurent, a young woman who thought a hotel receptionist job would be a fresh start after escaping an abusive past. But something was waiting, a coworker who vanished, a child watching from the shadows, a hum that broke her body, and a door that offered peace but hid a trap. It started with a flicker on the security screen, but it grew into a nightmare that fed on her guilt, her fear, her shame, her trauma. It was all fuel for something that knew her too well. I felt her terror reading her words like it was my own. And I'm telling you now because this isn't just a story. It's a warning about places that thrive on your brokenness and never let you go. I thought the hotel would be my salvation. My life was a wreck, running from my abusive father, barely holding down jobs, estranged from my mom, who blamed me for not fixing him. I was 24, broke and desperate when I landed the night receptionist job at the Crescent Moon Hotel in New Orleans. It was a grand old place, all chandeliers and creaky floors, steeped in history and charm. The night shift was quiet, just checking guests in, monitoring cameras, answering calls. I figured I could handle the solitude, the dark. I'd survived worse years of my father's fists, his words cutting deeper than bruises. But the Crescent Moon wasn't a refuge. It was a predator, and something inside it knew my name, my pain, my every scar. My first shift started at midnight, the lobby dim under flickering gaslights. The hotel felt alive, its walls groaning, its shadows stretching too far. My anxiety, always a tight knot in my chest, was louder here, my thoughts spiraling. I'd always feared being weak, letting my father define me, letting Mom down by running away. The front desk was my post, a small island of light in the dark, but I felt watched, like eyes were burning into me from the shadow. I shook it off, blaming nerves, but the air was heavy like it was holding its breath. Around 2 a.m. I heard it, a low hum, like a distant generator vibrating through the walls. It wasn't loud, but it sank into my bones, making my head throb, my nose itch. I checked the lobby, the hallways, the basement. Nothing. Just the hum, constant, personal, like it was calling me. My heart pounded, my hands shaking. Was it the hotel settling? My tired mind? I hadn't slept well in months. My dreams full of my father's voice, "You're nothing, Sophie." The hum seemed to echo him, and I felt small, exposed, my failures laid bare in the dark. By my third shift, I was jumpy, my nerves frayed. I was checking the security cameras when I saw him, a child, maybe 7, standing in the courtyard at 2:47 a.m., motionless, staring at the camera. His clothes were old, a tattered suit like something from a century ago, his face pale under the moonlight. My stomach dropped. The courtyard was locked, the gates bolted. No kid could be there. I ran outside, flashlight shaking, but the courtyard was empty, just cobblestones and shadows. My heart raced, my breath catching. Was it a glitch? My anxiety had never conjured visions before, but I wasn't sure anymore. I checked the footage again, my hands trembling. At exactly 2:47 a.m. there he was, appearing between frames, vanishing the same way. The cameras didn't show him arriving or leaving, just there, then gone. I felt violated, like the hotel was playing with me, exposing my chaos. I called my coworker Thomas, who worked days, begging him to check the system. He was kind, older, said he'd look. but his voice was shaky, like he felt something too. The hum grew louder that night, and I felt it in my chest like it knew my fear. A week in, things got stranger. Thomas didn't show up for his shift, and when I asked the manager, she looked confused. Said no one named Thomas worked here. My heart sank. I talked to him, shared coffee, laughed about guests. His name was on the schedule, but now it was gone, replaced with someone else. I checked his office. It was empty, just dust and bare walls, like it had been vacant for years. My anxiety spiked. My thoughts were a mess of doubt and fear. Was I losing it? I had always worried my trauma would break me, make me see things that weren't there. But Thomas was real. I had his number, his texts. Now they were gone, erased from my phone. I felt like I was fracturing, my reality blurring. I left a note at the desk. Thomas, where are you? And found a reply to the next night in shaky handwriting. Sorry, I was here first. My blood ran cold. Who wrote it? The hum pulsed louder, sensing with my heartbeat, and I felt a wave of guilt, like I'd trespassed on something sacred. I called Mom, my voice breaking, begging for advice, but she sighed, said I was stressed, her tone cold like I was a burden. The hotel's shadows seemed to laugh, feeding on my shame, and I felt trapped, like the crescent moon was a cage I'd walked into. The hum got worse, waking me every night at 2 a.m., lasting until dawn. My nose bled, my head throbbed, my dreams turned vivid. My father's fists, Mom's silence, my own screams. The hum intensified when I cried, when I thought of running again. I started feeling tired all the time, my body heavy, like something was draining me. I found an online forum where a former guest mentioned a hum in room 4B, saying it drove them to despair. Another post from years ago described a tenant's suicide in the hotel, hearing voices in the walls. My heart sank. This wasn't new. The hotel had done this before, feeding on pain, breaking people like me. I searched the basement, following the hum, and found a hidden panel behind a boiler. It opened to a resonance chamber, its walls vibrating, amplifying the sound. Inside were old guest logs, one mentioning a boy named Henry, who died in the courtyard in 1902, and a worker named Thomas, who vanished after reporting noises. My stomach dropped. Was this Thomas? The hum felt personal, like it knew my trauma, my guilt for leaving Mom to deal with Dad. I felt my spirit crumbling, my hopes slipping away into the hotel's gaze. One night, overwhelmed, I found a door in my office wall, small and wooden, where there'd been only plaster before. My heart pounded, my hands trembling. I opened it, revealing a wood-paneled alcove, empty but peaceful, like a sanctuary. The hum softened inside, my anxiety easing, but only when I was at my lowest did the door appear. I found a guest book in the alcove, dated 1902 with my name in it. Sophie Laurent, lost guest. I hadn't written it, but it was my handwriting, my fear. The child appeared closer now at the lobby windows, his eyes black, pointing to the courtyard. The hum whispered Sophie, and I felt the hotel inside me, its walls alive with my pain. I called Mom again, demanding answers. She was quiet, then admitted she'd stayed at the Crescent Moon as a teen, after a fight with her own father. She'd heard the hum, seen a door, felt a child watching. It stopped when I was born, like she'd passed it on. Her silence felt like betrayal, like she'd left me to face this alone. I felt crushed, my guilt overrunning, over failing Mom, now tangled with a curse I didn't choose. The hotel pulsed, the hum louder, the child's eyes brighter, and I felt something cold, claw-like, in my soul. The child wasn't random. He was Henry, my great-uncle, who died in the courtyard, his death tied to our family. The hum was his mother's grief, my great-grandmother's, a maid who worked here, her pain trapped in the hotel's walls. Thomas was her brother, a ghost who'd helped me until he vanished into the alcove. The resonance chamber was her creation, amplifying her sorrow, latching onto our family's trauma across generations. My father's abuse, Mom's silence, my running. It was fuel, making the hum stronger, the child closer, the door more real. I found a letter in the alcove, written by my great-grandmother. The hotel takes your pain. Don't let it take you. My heart sank. This was a family curse, and I was its next victim. I tried to fight it. I scattered salt, burned sage, and read prayers from a guest book's margins. The hotel shook, the hum screaming, the child's eyes blazing. But the guest book kept appearing, my name on every page, dated years from now. I felt my mind fracturing, my thoughts blurring. Was I Sophie, or was I already part of the hotel, my trauma etched into its walls? The alcove's door pulsed, inviting me in, and I felt Henry's presence, his mother's, their pain merging with mine. One night, the hum spoke, my voice older, broken. Sophie, you can't save them. I demanded answers, and it said, you're already here forever. My blood ran cold. The alcove wasn't a sanctuary. It was a temporal loop, aging me when I entered, my skin wrinkling, my hair graying after one night inside. The guest book wasn't a warning. It was a record, written by me in the future I was already living. The hotel was a pocket dimension, twisting time, pulling my trauma into reality. The child appeared in the lobby, his face now Mom's, then mine, like the hotel was claiming us all. I found a mirror in the alcove, showing me, older, broken, my eyes like Henry's. Another showed Mom screaming, the hum drowning her. I realized the hotel wasn't just after me. It was after my family, my mother, my pain. I felt my reality blurring, my spirit shattering. Was I still Sophie, or was I already theirs, trapped in a loop I couldn't see? The hunger deafening, the child's hands claw-like, the door colder, pulling me into the dark. I tried to end it. I sealed the resonance chamber, smashed the mirror, burned the guest book, screaming prayers until my voice gave out. The hotel roared, the hum shaking the walls, the child merging with my shadow, his eyes on my own. I ran to the courtyard, clutching a photo of Mom, begging the hotel to take me instead. The hum parted, the door slammed shut, sealing the alcove. The child vanished, but I felt him inside me, a weight in my chest like I'd given something up. I called Mom, begging to see her, but she said she was sick, her voice distant like she saw something I couldn't. I quit the job the next day, told the manager I was done. She didn't ask questions, her eyes cold like she knew something. I moved to a new city, got a job at a diner, and tried to rebuild it. The hum stopped, the child faded, but I don't trust it. I see him sometimes, in reflections, in shadows, his face blending with mine. Mom won't talk, says she dreams of a boy, a humming room. I check mirrors, doors, shadows, afraid I'll see the alcove again. I don't know if I broke the curse or fed it my hope, my love, my name. Henry is real, and he's patient. He's tied to my family, to the crescent moon, to something older than me. I thought I escaped, but sometimes I hear the hum, see the child in my dream. I don't know if he's in the hotel or in me. The worst part is the doubt. Am I free, or is he still here, waiting for Mom? If you work in a place that feels wrong, if you hear a hum, or see a child in the dark, don't stay. Don't open the door. And if you see him, don't give him your pain. He's already claimed it. Subscribe, like, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss what's next.
The lighthouse's echo. I need you to hear this because it's been eating away at me since I found it. I was digging through an old maritime forum, one of those dusty corners of the internet where sailors and keepers swap tales of the sea. That's where I stumbled across a post by someone called Cliff Warden. Their words raw, like they were typing through tears. They wrote about working at a lighthouse off the Oregon coast, but it wasn't just storms or loneliness they faced. It was something else, something that whispered their name and knew their pain. Reading it felt like a cold hand on my neck, my heart racing with every word. I couldn't stop, even though it made me feel like I was being watched. I'm sharing this because I can't keep it inside. It's too heavy, too wrong. You're going to feel it too, and I'm sorry, but you need to know what's out there. This is about Clara Bennett, a woman who thought a lighthouse keeper's job would heal her broken life. But something was waiting in that tower. A child on the cliffs, a woman walking backwards, phone calls from her own voice, and photos that changed when she looked away. It started with whispers in the wind, but it grew into a nightmare that tore at her soul. Her guilt, her grief, her fear was all fuel for whatever was there. I felt her terror reading her words like it was my own. And I'm telling you now, because this isn't just a story. It's a warning about places that hold on to pain and things that feed on yours. I thought the lighthouse would save me. My life was in pieces, divorced, estranged from my daughter Emma, drowning in guilt for leaving her with my ex Tom. The job at Cape Solace Lighthouse, perched on a jagged cliff off the Oregon coast, was my chance to start over. No people, just the sea, the wind, and the light to guide ships home. I had always been good at being alone, or so I thought. But from the moment I stepped into that tower, I felt it. A wrongness, like the air was holding its breath. The lighthouse wasn't a refuge. It was a trap. And something inside it knew my name, my shame, my deepest wounds. My first night, the wind howled, rattling the lighthouse's old stone walls. The keeper's quarters were small. A cot, a desk, a single window facing the endless Pacific. I was unpacking when I heard it, a whisper, soft and feminine, saying Clara. It came from the stairwell leading to the lantern room, but when I climbed the spiral steps, flashlight shaking, it was empty, just the hum of the light and the crash of waves below. My heart pounded, my anxiety spiking. I'd struggled with it for years, always overthinking, always afraid I'd fail everyone, Emma most of all. I told myself it was the isolation, my tired mind playing tricks. But the whisper felt personal, like it knew my guilt, and the air grew colder, like something was standing just behind me. I didn't sleep that night. The lighthouse felt too big, too alive, its creaks and groans like voices. I kept the radio on, hoping static would drown out my thoughts, but every sound made me jump. I felt small, exposed, like the tower was judging me for leaving Emma, for breaking up with my family. The whisper lingered in my head, sharp and accusing, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. By the third day, I was exhausted, my nerves frayed. I was checking the lantern when I saw him, a child, maybe 6 or 7, standing on the cliffs below, motionless, staring up at the tower. His clothes were old-fashioned, with a tattered jacket and shorts, his face pale in the fog. My stomach dropped. The lighthouse was miles from shore, the cliffs too steep for anyone to climb. I grabbed my binoculars, but he was gone, like he'd never been there. My heart raced, my hands shaking. Was it a trick of the light? My anxiety had never conjured visions before, but I wasn't sure anymore. That night, I checked the security camera by the cliff path. At exactly 2:47 a.m., there he was, standing on the rocks, staring up. The footage didn't show him arriving. He just appeared, then vanished between frames. My breath caught, my mind screaming. Was I losing it? I'd always feared my mind would betray me, that my guilt over Emma would break me. I felt violated, like the lighthouse was peeling back my thoughts, exposing my failures. I called Tom, my voice shaking, asking about Emma, but he was cold, saying she was fine without me. His words cut deep, and the lighthouse seemed to agree, its walls creaking like laughter. A week in, things got stranger. The old satellite phone in the keeper's quarters rang at 2 a.m., startling me awake. When I answered, I heard my own voice, delayed, echoing my words. "Hello, who's this?" It answered, "Clara, it's you." My heart stopped. I hung up, but it rang again. My voice now describing Emma's room. Her blue blanket, her stuffed bear. Details I hadn't spoken aloud. I felt a wave of panic, my thoughts spiraling. Was this a prank? A hallucination? I called my friend Sarah, who'd visited the lighthouse once, and she heard it too, my voice predicting she'd wear a red scarf the next day. She did. The calls came every night, predicting small things. A storm hitting the coast, a package arriving late. But they also whispered secrets about Tom's anger, Emma's tears, my own guilt for leaving her. I felt like I was drowning, my spirit crushed under the weight of my failures. The lighthouse felt smaller, like it was closing in, and I started doubting my sanity. Was this schizophrenia? Was I breaking apart? The phone calls were my own voice, but they knew things I didn't, like they were from a future I couldn't see. By the second week, I saw her, a woman in a tattered dress, walking backwards along the cliff path at 3:15 a.m. Her movements were deliberate, precise, her face obscured by long gray hair. She didn't turn, just walked, vanishing into the fog. I watched from the lantern room, my heart pounding, too afraid to go outside. The cameras caught her, but like the child, she appeared without arriving, her dress glowing faintly. My anxiety was a constant scream, my thoughts a tangle of fear and guilt. Was she real? Or was my mind conjuring her, feeding on my shame for abandoning Emma? I found an old logbook in the lighthouse's storage, its pages brittle, written by a keeper from the 1920s. It described a woman walking backwards, a child on the cliffs, whispers in the night. The keeper called them echoes of grief, tied to a woman named Abigail Holt, who lost her son in a shipwreck near the lighthouse. The last entry read, "She's waiting for him. She wants my pain." My stomach dropped. This wasn't new, she'd been here for decades, feeding on keepers like me, people carrying guilt, loss, despair. I felt trapped, like the lighthouse was a cage, and I'd walked right into it. Desperate for answers, I started going through my things, hoping for a clue. I kept a photo of Emma on my desk, her smiling face my only anchor. One night, I noticed it had changed. Her smile was gone. Her eyes looking past me, towards something in the background. I blinked, and it was back to normal, but my heart raced. I started documenting it, taking pictures of the photo with my phone, but the changes didn't show up digitally. Other photos changed too. Tom's face turned angry, Emma's room darkened, a shadow appearing behind her. Each change reflected my fears, my guilt. Like the lighthouse was pulling my thoughts into reality. I felt like I was losing myself, my thoughts fracturing. I called Sarah again, begging her to check on Emma. She said Emma was fine, but her voice was shaky, like she was hiding something. I felt betrayed, like everyone was leaving me to face this alone. The child appeared more often, closer now, standing at the lighthouse door. The woman walked every night, her backward steps a countdown to something I couldn't name. The phone calls grew darker, my voice whispering. "You left her, Clara? You're nothing." I felt my spirit breaking, my hopes slipping away under their gaze. I dug deeper, scouring the logbook and local records. I found a newspaper clipping from 1923 about Abigail Holt, a lighthouse keeper's wife whose son, Samuel, drowned when his boat capsized. Abigail died soon after, wasting away from grief. But there was more. A family tree in the town archives listed Abigail as my great-grandmother. My heart sank. This wasn't random. The child on the cliffs was Samuel, my unborn brother, lost in a miscarriage Mom never told me about. The woman was Abigail, tied to our family, hunting us across generations, feeding on our pain. I called Mom. My voice broke, demanding answers. She admitted she'd seen the woman too after the miscarriage, walking backwards in her dreams, whispering her name. She thought it was over when I was born, that she'd protect me by staying silent. But her silence felt like betrayal, like she'd left me to face Abigail alone. I felt crushed, my guilt over Emma now tangled with a family curse I didn't choose. The lighthouse seemed to pulse, its walls alive with Abigail's grief. And I felt her inside me, her whispers louder, her hands colder. One night the phone rang and my voice was different, older, tired, saying, "Clara, you can't save her." I demanded answers, and it answered, "I'm you from the end." My blood ran cold. The calls weren't random. They were me, trapped in a future where I'd lost Emma, looping back to warn myself. The lighthouse was a pocket dimension, a trap that twisted time, pulling my guilt, my grief, into reality. The photos showed Emma fading, her face replaced by Samuel's, Abigail's son, like she was claiming her for herself. I found a hidden room in the lighthouse's base, its door appearing only when I was at my lowest, overwhelmed by guilt. Inside was a shrine. Photos of Samuel, Abigail's dress, a logbook in my handwriting, dated years from now. She took Emma. I gave her my name. I hadn't written it, but it was there. My words, my fear. The lighthouse wasn't just haunted, it was alive, a prison for Abigail's grief, and I was its next prisoner. I felt my mind fracturing, my reality blurring. Was I Clara, or was I already hers? I tried to fight her. I burned sage, scattered salt, read prayers from an old Bible in the storage room. The lighthouse shook, the wind screaming, the photos burning without flame. The child appeared inside, his eyes black, pointing to the door. The woman walked backwards up the stairs, her whispers now a chorus, "Give me your pain." I refused, shouting Emma's name, clinging to her photo. The phone rang, my future voice begging, "Don't let her take her." I smashed the phone, but the whispers didn't stop. The room pulsed, the air heavy, and I felt Abigail's hands on my shoulders, cold and claw-like, pulling me into the dark. I ran to the cliff, clutching Emma's photo, screaming prayers into the wind. The child and the woman appeared, their forms merging, their eyes one. I threw the photo into the sea, hoping to break the curse, but the lighthouse groaned, the hidden room's door slamming shut. The whispers stopped, the air lightened, but I felt hollow, like I'd given something up. I called Tom, begging to see Emma, but he said she was sick, her eyes distant, like she saw something I couldn't. I left the lighthouse the next day, telling the Coast Guard I was sick. I moved to a small apartment, tried to rebuild to reach Emma, but the whispers followed, calling Clara in the quiet moments. I see the child in reflections, the woman in shadows, always watching. Tom says Emma's drawing pictures of a boy on a cliff, a woman in a dress. Mom won't talk, like she feels Abigail too. I check mirrors, windows, photos, afraid I'll see them, or myself, from a future I can't escape. I don't know if I broke the curse or fed it my hope, my love, my name. Abigail is real, and she's patient. She's tied to my family, to the lighthouse, to something older than me. I thought I escaped, but sometimes I hear her whisper, see her walking backwards in my dreams. I don't know if she's in the lighthouse or in me. The worst part is the doubt. Am I free? Or is she still here, waiting for Emma? If you hear your name in the wind, see a child in the dark, don't answer. Don't open the door. And if you see her, don't give her your pain. She's already claimed it.
The library's endless stacks. What if the place you go to escape your past doesn't just hold knowledge, but traps you in a version of yourself you can't outrun? That's the question that's been clawing at my mind since I found this story, and I need to share it before it swallows me whole. I was browsing a dusty corner of a librarian's forum, where folks swap tales of strange archives, when I stumbled across a post by Lost in the Stacks. Their words were raw, like they were typing to keep something at bay, describing a night in a library that wasn't just quiet. It was alive, twisting time, whispering secrets, and changing memories right before their eyes. Reading it felt like a cold hand on my spine, my heart pounding, my breath catching with every word. It's a tale of photos that shift, clocks that whisper, rain that falls upward, and a room that ages you faster than you can scream. I'm sharing this for True Horror Stories Film because I can't carry it alone. It's too heavy, too dark. Hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss what's next. This one's going to linger in your mind and you'll be checking your shadows for days. This is about Jordan Ellis, a college student who thought a library job would be a quiet escape from his broken family. But something was waiting clock that knew his name. Photos that showed his sister in danger, water rising from the floor, and a room that stole his years. It started with a tick in the dark, but it grew into a nightmare that fed on his guilt. His shame, his fear, his pastimes were all fuel for something that wouldn't let go. I felt his terror reading his words, like it was my own. And I'm telling you now because this isn't just a story. It's a warning about places that hold your pain and turn it against you. I thought the library would be my sanctuary. My life was falling apart, flunking out of college, fighting with my sister Ava, stuck in a small Ohio town with my dad, who hadn't spoken to me since Mom left. I was 19, drowning in guilt for not being the son Dad wanted, the brother Ava needed. The night shift at the Hawthorne Library was my lifeline. Shelving books, cleaning desks, no people, just quiet. I figured I could handle the solitude, the dark. I'd survived worse. Dad's silence, Ava's accusations, my own failures piling up like debt. But the library wasn't a haven. It was a predator, and something inside it knew my name, my shame, my every regret. My first shift started at 10 p.m. The library empty, its tall shelves looming like sentinels. The air was thick with the smell of old paper and dust. The only sound the hum of fluorescent lights. My anxiety, always a low buzz, was louder here. My thoughts spiraling. I'd always feared letting people down, especially Ava, who'd called me a coward for not standing up to Dad. Her words stung, and the library seemed to amplify them, the silence heavy with judgment. I was shelving books in the history section when I heard it. A tick, like a clock, but sharp, deliberate, coming from the back stacks. I followed the sound, my flashlight shaking, but found nothing, just rows of books and shadows. My heart pounded, my hands sweaty. Was it the building settling? My tired mind. I hadn't slept well in weeks. My dreams full of Ava's angry face, Dad's cold stare. But the tick felt personal, like it was calling me, and the air grew colder, like something was standing just behind me. I felt small, exposed, my failures laid bare in the dark. I turned on my phone's music, hoping to drown it out, but the tick cut through, sharp and accusing. By my third shift, I found the source. A grandfather clock in a storage room, its face cracked, its hands frozen at midnight. I hadn't seen it before, and the library's inventory didn't list it. At exactly 12 a.m., it didn't chime. It whispered, "Jordan," in a low, feminine voice. My stomach dropped, my breath catching. The voice predicted small things. A book I'd find misshelved, a power outage the next night. Each prediction was right, and I started trusting it even as it grew darker, whispering, "You failed, Ava. You failed them all." My anxiety spiked, my thoughts a mess of guilt and fear. Was this real? I'd read about stress-induced hallucinations, but this felt different, like the clock knew my soul. I called my friend Nate, who'd worked at the library before, begging him to check the storage room. He said there was no clock, called me stressed, but his voice was shaky, like he felt something too. The whispers grew personally, mentioning Ava's fights, Dad's drinking, my own cowardice. I felt violated, my spirit crumbling under the clock's gaze. Was I losing my mind? I'd always worried my failures would break me, and now it felt like it was happening. The library feeding on my shame. I kept a photo of Ava on my phone, her smile, my only anchor. One night I noticed it had changed. Her smile had changed, her eyes looking past me, a shadow behind her. I blinked, and it was back to normal, but my heart raced. Other photos changed too, one of Dad, his face angry. One of me and Ava, the background, now a dark, endless aisle of books. I tried taking screenshots, but the changes didn't show digitally, only in the originals. Each change reflected my fears. Ava in danger, Dad's judgment, my own failure. The clock whispered, "Look closer, Jordan," and I felt the library pulling my thoughts into reality. I showed the photos to Nate, but he saw nothing and said I was tired. I felt alone, my thoughts fracturing. The clock's whispers grew louder, telling me to check specific shelves, to find certain books. I followed, hoping it would stop, but it only got worse. The photos showed Ava crying, a shadow growing larger behind her. I felt my spirit breaking, my hopes slipping away into the library's gaze. I called Ava, my voice breaking, apologizing for everything. Dad, the fights, my failures. She didn't answer, just texted, "Leave me alone." Her words cut deep, and the library's tick seemed to laugh, feeding on my pain. By my second week, the library changed. Water started rising from the floor, droplets defying gravity, sticking to the ceiling like upside-down rain. It wasn't wet, but it whispered my name, Jordan, in a voice that wasn't mine. My anxiety was a constant scream, my thoughts spiraling. Was I hallucinating? The water was cold against my skin, the whispers sharp in my ears. I started having dreams, vivid, crushing, where Ava screamed at me, her face fading into water, her eyes accusing. I woke up gasping, my nose bleeding, my body heavy like something was pinning me down. I found an old librarian's log in the archives, dated 1952, mentioning water from nowhere and a clock that whispered. The librarian, Eleanor Voss, wrote about a curse tied to the library, feeding on guilt. Her last entry read, "It wants my shame. I can't leave." My heart sank. This wasn't new. Eleanor, who had faced this, and now was after me. The library felt alive, its shelves pulsing with the tick, the water rising higher, whispering secrets about Ava, about Dad, about every failure I'd buried. I felt trapped, like the library was a cage, and I'd walked right into it. Desperate, I explored deeper, finding a door in the basement stacks, unmarked, not on any floor plan. I opened it, revealing a pristine room, 1950s furniture, a desk, bookshelves, all spotless despite decades of neglect. The tick was louder here, the water pooling upward, the air heavy. My heart pounded, my hands trembling. I left my phone on the desk for an hour, and when I returned, it was rusted. Its screen cracked like it had aged years. My hair had gray streaks. My joints ached like I'd aged overnight. The room was a trap, a place where time ran faster, stealing years with every second inside. I found a journal in the room, Eleanor's, with my name in it. Jordan Ellis, guilt carrier. I hadn't written it, but it was my handwriting dated before I was born. My stomach dropped. Was this a trick? I called Dad, demanding answers, my voice shaking. He was drunk, but admitted Mom had worked at the library, heard whispers, seen water, dreamed of a woman named Eleanor. She quit after a breakdown, thought it was over. Her silence felt like betrayal, like she'd left me to face this alone. The library pulsed, the tick louder, the water colder, and I felt Eleanor inside me, her whispers weaving into my thought. The room wasn't random. It was Eleanor's, a librarian who died in the library. Her guilt for failing her family trapped in its walls. The clock was hers, a family heirloom, its whispers carrying her pain, latching onto our family across generations. My mom was her daughter, and I was her heir. My guilt over Ava, over Dad, fuel for her curse. The water was her tears rising to drown me in her shame. I found a letter in the room, written by Eleanor. The library takes your pain. Don't let it take you. My heart sank. This was a family curse, tied to the hawthorn, hunting us, feeding on our failures. My shame for running, for failing Ava. It was making the clock tick faster, the water rise higher, the photos darker. I tried to fight it. I scattered salt, read prayers from a book in the room, smashed the clock's face. The library shook, the water screaming, the photos burning without flame. But the journal kept appearing, my name on every page, dated years from now. I felt my mind fracturing, my thoughts blurring. Was I Jordan? Or was I Eleanor's echo, trapped in her guilt? The room pulsed, inviting me in, and I felt her presence, her pain merging with mine. One night, the clock spoke in my voice, older, broken. Jordan, you can't save her? I demanded answers, and it said, you're already here forever. My blood ran cold. The room wasn't just a trap. It was a temporal loop, aging me when I entered. My skin wrinkling, my eyes dimming after one night inside. The journal wasn't a warning. It was a record, written by me in the future I was already living. The library was a pocket dimension, twisting time, pulling my guilt into reality. The photos showed Ava fading, her face replaced by Eleanor's, like the library was claiming her too. I found a mirror in the room showing me, older, gray, my eyes like Eleanor's. Another showed Ava, screaming, water rising around her. I realized the library wasn't just after me. It was after my family, my sister, my pain. I felt my reality blurring, my spirit shattering. Was I still Jordan? Or was I already part of the library? My guilt etched into its shelves. The tick grew deafening, the water colder, the photos darker, pulling me into the dark. I tried to end it. I burned the journal, smashed the mirror, screamed prayers until my voice gave out. The library roared, the water rising to the ceiling, the tick shaking the shelves. The photos showed Ava, her eyes pleading, a shadow behind her. Eleanor's face, now mine. I ran to the room, clutching Ava's photo, begging the library to take me instead. The water parted, the tick stopped, the door slammed shut, sealing the room. The photos cleared, but I felt hollow, like I'd given something up. I called Ava, begging to see her, but she said she was sick, her voice distant, like she saw something I couldn't. I quit the job the next day, told the head librarian I was done. She didn't ask questions, her eyes cold like she knew something. I moved to a new town, got a job at a gas station, and tried to rebuild. The tick stopped. The water faded, but I don't trust it. I see Eleanor sometimes in reflections and shadows, her face blending with mine. Ava won't talk. Says she dreams of water, a woman's voice. Dad's quiet, like he feels her too. I check mirrors, photos, clocks, afraid I'll see the room again. I don't know if I broke the curse or fed it my hope, my love, my name. I'm writing this for True Horror Stories film because I need you to believe me. Eleanor's real, and she's patient. She's tied to my family, to Hawthorne, to something older than me. I thought I escaped, but sometimes I hear the tick, see the water rising in my dreams. I don't know if she's in the library or in me. The worst part is the doubt. Am I free? Or is she still here, waiting for Ava? If you work in a place that feels wrong, if you hear a clock or see water that shouldn't be, don't stay. Don't look at the photos. And if you see her, don't give her your guilt. She's already claimed it. Subscribe, like, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss what's next. The night shifts shadow. Hey, listen up, because I've got a story that's been keeping me up at night. I stumbled across it on an old Reddit thread posted by someone who sounded like they were unraveling. The way they described it, raw, shaky, like they were afraid to even type the words, hit me hard. It was about a night shift at a grocery store, but not the kind of creepy you'd expect from flickering lights or empty aisles. This was something else. Something that felt like it crawled out of a nightmare and stayed. I read it in one sitting, my heart pounding, and I haven't been able to shake it since. I'm sharing this because it feels wrong to keep it to myself. Like I'd be letting that thing they saw win. You might not believe it, but you'll feel it, just like I did. This is about Sarah Wells, a college student working nights to pay her bills, who thought she could handle the loneliness of a dead-end job. But one night, something found her. Something that knew her fears, her doubts, and wouldn't let go. It started with a shadow in an office chair, but it wasn't just a hallucination. It was real, and it wanted something from her. Reading her account made my skin crawl, and I'm telling you now because I can't unsee the image of that thing in my head. Brace yourself. This one's going to linger. I thought the night shift at Harper's Grocery would be my escape. College was kicking my ass. Exams, bills, my mom's constant texts asking why I hadn't called. I was 20, drowning in stress, and the idea of stocking shelves in a quiet store from midnight to 6 a.m. sounded like a break. No people, no pressure, just me and the hum of fluorescent lights. I was wrong. The store wasn't empty. Something was waiting for me, something that knew my name and fed on my fear. It started small, but it grew into a nightmare I can't escape. No matter how hard I try. My first shift was uneventful, just boring. Harper's is one of those 24-hour grocery stores in a sleepy coastal town, all faded linoleum and flickering lights. I stocked canned goods, mopped floors, and avoided the creepy manager, Greg, who always lingered too long in the break room. The store felt off at night, too big and too quiet, like it was holding its breath. I'd chalked it up to being tired. My anxiety had been through the roof since midterms, and I hadn't slept well in weeks. But even then, I felt it. A prickle on the back of my neck, like someone was watching me from the shadows. By 3 a.m., I was in the stockroom sorting boxes when I heard it. A faint whisper, like someone saying Sarah just out of sight. I froze, my heart thumping, and checked every aisle. Nothing. Just rows of soup cans and cereal boxes. I laughed it off, blaming my nerves, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I felt exposed, like the store's walls were too thin, like something could slip through them. I didn't tell anyone. Who would believe me? I barely believed myself. It was my 5th shift when it happened. I was exhausted, running on energy drinks and 4 hours of sleep. Around 4 a.m., I went to the break room to grab my water bottle. The room was small, just a table, a microwave, and an old office chair with cracked leather. I sat down, rubbing my eyes, when I felt it, a heaviness, like the air was pressing down on me. My body locked up, my limbs heavy, like I was trapped in my own skin. Sleep paralysis, I thought, remembering articles I'd read. It had happened before, but never like this. Then I saw her. She was in the office chair, not 3 feet away, staring at me. An old woman, but not human. Not really. She was tiny, maybe 3 feet tall, her body emaciated, her gray skin stretched tight over sharp bone. Her nose was narrow like a blade, and her eyes were black. Not just dark, but empty, like they swallowed light. Her hair was brittle and gray, hanging in clumps, and her ears were pointed, almost elfish but sickly, wrong. Her hands were the worst. Long, bony fingers with jagged, untrimmed nails that looked like they could tear through flesh. She didn't move, didn't blink, just stared, her gaze boring into me. I wanted to scream, to run, but I couldn't. I was trapped, drowning in her eyes, feeling like she was peeling away every secret, every fear I'd ever had. It lasted 2 minutes, maybe 3, but it felt like hours. Then she was gone, the chair empty, and I could move again. I gasped, my chest heaving, my shirt soaked with sweat. I stumbled out of the break room, my legs weak, my mind racing. Was it real? Was I losing it? My anxiety had never done this before. I felt violated, like she'd reached inside me and twisted something. I didn't finish my shift. I told Greg I was sick and left, the store's lights buzzing in my ears like a warning. I went back the next night because I needed the money, but I was terrified. The store felt different now, like it was watching me. The whispers came more often. Sarah, Sarah, sometimes from the aisles, sometimes from behind the stockroom door. I started avoiding the break room, but it didn't help. I'd catch glimpses of her in reflections, on the glass freezer doors, in the polished floor, always just out of reach. My anxiety was a constant hum. My thoughts spiraling. Was I schizophrenic? Was this what it felt like to break? I'd always been afraid of my mind betraying me, and now it seemed to be happening. I called my mom, desperate for someone to tell me I wasn't crazy. We weren't close. She'd always been hard on me, saying I was too sensitive, too dramatic. When I told her about the whispers, the creature, she sighed, like I was exhausting her. "You're stressed, Sarah. Get some sleep." But her voice cracked, and I heard something she wasn't saying. A fear, like she knew more than she let on. It made me feel small, like a kid again, begging for her to believe me. I hung up, alone, the whispers laughing in the background. A week later, I started researching. I couldn't shake the image of that creature. Her black eyes burned into my memory. On a whim, I searched online for old hag sleep paralysis. My stomach dropped. Story after story described her. The same gray skin, the same black eyes, the same oppressive presence. People called her the old hag, a figure from folklore who sat on your chest, stealing your breath. But she hadn't sat on me. She just watched, like she was waiting for something. The thought made my skin crawl. If others had seen her, she wasn't just in my head. She was real, and she'd chosen me. I found an old employee handbook in the stockroom, tucked behind some boxes. It was from the 1980s, its pages yellowed, but one section caught my eye, a warning about the store's history. It mentioned a fire in the 1970s, a worker who died in the break room, trapped in a chair as the flames closed it. No name, no details, just a note that the chair was kept as a memorial. My heart sank. The office chair, the one she sat in, was still there, its leather cracked and faded. I felt sick, like the store itself was complicit, hiding her in plain sight. I couldn't let it go. I started digging deeper, obsessed. I found my mom's old diary in a box she'd sent me, pages I'd never read. One entry, from when she was pregnant with me, stopped me cold. She wrote about a dream. A tiny, gray-skinned woman with black eyes whispering her name, offering her something wrong. Mom refused, but she woke up paralyzed, terrified, hearing my name in the dark. She never told me because she thought it was just a nightmare, but she'd heard the whispers again when I was a kid. Always at night, always my name. My hands shook as I read it. This thing wasn't new. It had been with my family, waiting for years. I confronted Mom, my voice breaking. She admitted it. She'd seen the hag too, and so had my grandmother, though she'd never spoken of it. They'd both dreamed of her, felt her watching, heard her whispers. Mom said it stopped when I was born, like the hag had moved on. But now it was back, and it was after me. I felt betrayed, like my family had left me to face this alone. The guilt was crushing. Had I done something to bring her back? Was my stress, my fear, an invitation? I didn't know, but I felt like I was drowning in it, my spirit breaking under her gaze. I stopped going to the break room, but it didn't matter. The hag was everywhere now, in the shadows of the aisles, in the hum of the lights, in my dreams. I started seeing her outside the store, in my apartment, sitting in my desk chair, her black eyes locked on me. I was falling apart, my grades slipping, my friends pulling away. I felt like I was being erased, my life unraveling thread by thread. One night, I found a carving on the office chair, a symbol like a jagged eye, etched into the armrest. It wasn't there before. I checked the handbook again and found a hidden page, written in shaky handwriting. She lives in the chair. Burn it or she takes you. My heart stopped. The chair wasn't just a memorial. It was her anchor, her way into the world. I dragged it to the alley behind the store, doused it with lighter fluid, and set it on fire. The flames roared, and I swore I heard her scream, a high, keening wail that made my ears ring. The chair burned to ash, and I felt a moment of relief, like I'd won. But that night, in my apartment, I heard it again. Sarah. The whisper was closer inside my head, and when I looked in the mirror, her face stared back, her black eyes in mine. I quit the job the next day. I told Greg I couldn't handle the hours, but he looked at me like he knew something, like he'd seen her too. I moved out of town, crashing with a friend in a new city, hoping distance would save me. The whispers stopped, but I don't trust it. I check every chair I sit in, every shadow in the corner. I don't sleep much, afraid I'll see her again, her bony fingers reaching for me. My mom won't talk about it, and my friends think I'm paranoid. Maybe I am, but I know what I saw, what I felt. She's still out there, waiting for me to let my guard down. I'm writing this because I need someone to know, to believe me. The hag is real, and she's patient. She's been with my family for generations, maybe longer, and burning the chair didn't stop her. It just made her angry. I hear her sometimes in the quiet moments whispering my name. I see her in reflections, in the corners of my eyes. I don't know if she's in me now, or if I'm still me. If you see an old chair, worn and cracked, don't sit in it. Don't look too long. And if you hear your name in the dark, don't answer. She's waiting, and she knows you're afraid. The secret of St. Cecilius, the divine whispers lie. Inside, a church breathes with a light unlit by man, echoing with voices that aren't quite human, and shadows that give life to stone. Is it a blessing, or a curse in disguise? Enter a mystery that promises to haunt you long after the final page. Now, let's begin the story. Father Michael Kane stood at the altar of St. Cecilius Church, his hands gripping the worn edge of the lectern. The chapel, nestled in a quiet Vermont valley, was a relic of stone and stained glass, its walls etched with the weight of centuries. At 38, Michael had served here for 5 years, seeking solace in its silence after the fire that claimed his sister, Clara, a decade ago. Her laughter, once a melody in his life, now haunted him, a ghost he couldn't banish. The townsfolk of Eldwood revered St. Cecilius for its miracles, healings, visions, answered prayers. But Michael's faith had frayed, his prayers hollow, his heart heavy with doubt. The church was small, its pews worn smooth by generations, the air thick with the scent of wax and old wood. Sunlight filtered through the rose window, casting crimson and gold across the altar. Michael adjusted his vestments, preparing for the Sunday Mass, but his thoughts drifted to the recent forest baptism. The ceremony, held in a clearing near Blackthorn Woods, had drawn dozens, their voices rising in hymn as they waded into the icy river. Michael had been skeptical, dismissing the locals' tales of divine signs, but something had shifted that day. Among the trees, glowing figures appeared, silent, radiant, robed in white, as if honoring the rite. He fumbled with his camera, a hobby born of restless nights, and captured their light. The footage was clear, the figures unmistakable, yet their presence felt less like a blessing and more like a warning. Back in the church, a faint hum followed him, like distant chanting, barely audible but persistent. He'd heard it since the baptism, a sound that seemed to rise from the stones themselves. He shook it off, chalking it up to fatigue, but it lingered, vibrating in his chest. As he lit the candles, the flame flickered, though no breeze stirred the air. He glanced at the Christ statue behind the altar, its carved eyes serene yet piercing. The hum grew, a low murmur, and Michael's skin prickled. He was alone, yet he felt watched. Sunday Mass was crowded, the pews filled with familiar faces, farmers, shopkeepers, families clutching rosaries. Michael delivered his sermon, his voice steady despite the hum in his ears. Midway through, a soft light bloomed in the corner of the sanctuary, near the statue of Saint Cecilia. It grew brighter, blinding, until it filled the space with a radiant glow. Parishioners gasped, some whispering Virgin Mary, others crossing themselves. Michael squinted, his heart racing. In the light, a robed silhouette stood, its features blurred but its gaze sharp, cutting through him. The hum became a murmur, words indistinct yet urgent, like a plea or command. He ended the Mass abruptly, the congregation buzzing with awe. They called it a miracle, a divine visitation, but Michael's hands trembled as he extinguished the candle. That night, alone in the rectory, he reviewed the church security footage, a grainy feed from a camera installed years ago. The light was there, undeniable, and the silhouette moved slightly as if turning toward him. He played it again, frame by frame, his breath shallow. The hum in the footage was clear, a chorus of voices, too low to decipher. Sleep eluded him. He paced the rectory, a small room cluttered with books, and a single photo of Clara, her smile froze in time. The hum followed, now a whisper. Listen. He froze, searching for the shadows, but found nothing. The church felt alive, its walls breathing, its silence heavy with secrets. He recalled the local stories, lights without source, voices in the halls, statues stirring in the dark. He dismissed them, but now doubt gnawed at him. The next Sunday, Michael's sermon faltered. Mid-sentence, his voice shifted, deepening, the words unfamiliar. "Seek the truth within the stone," he said, though he hadn't meant to. The congregation leaned forward, some nodding, others wide-eyed, calling it a prophecy. Michael's throat tightened, his hands shaking as he gripped the pulpit. It wasn't his voice. It was older, rougher, as if another spoke through him. The hum surged, a chant now, filling the church with an eerie resonance. After Mass, he avoided the parishioners' questions, retreating to the sacristy. He checked the live stream, a new addition to reach younger members. The footage captured his voice, clear and alien, the words echoing in his mind. Online, viewers were ecstatic, posting about divine intervention, but Michael felt violated, as if something had slipped inside him. He lit a candle, praying for clarity, but the flame flickered wildly, and the hum whispered again, "Listen." He found refuge in the rectory's library, a dusty nook filled with parish records. Among the shelves he uncovered a journal, its leather cover cracked, dated 1847. It belonged to Father Elias, a priest who'd served St. Cecilia's during a time of famine. The entries spoke of visions in the church, lights, voices, a statue moving. One passage chilled him. The church holds them. They speak, they move, they watch. They are not of God, but of something older. Father Elias had vanished soon after, his fate unknown. The live stream became a phenomenon. Viewers tuned in each Sunday, hoping for another sign. During one broadcast, as Michael read from the Gospel, a parishioner messaged him, "Check the statue." He glanced at the Christ statue behind him, its hand subtly raised, different from its usual pose. The congregation hadn't noticed, too focused on his words, but the camera caught it, a slight shift, the fingers curling. Online, the chat exploded. Miracle! God's hand moves. Michael rewatched the footage, his pulse hammering. The statue's eyes seemed to follow him, its gaze heavy, alive. He avoided the sanctuary that night, staying in the rectory. In a storage room, he found a Virgin Mary portrait, its colors vibrant despite its age. It had survived a fire that gutted a nearby home in the 1960s, untouched while everything else burned. He hung it on the wall, studying Mary's serene face, but the hum grew louder, now a clear whisper. Listen. The portrait's eyes seemed to shift, meeting his. He stumbled back, the room spinning. Outside, a storm brewed, clouds gathering over St. Cecilia's. Michael stepped onto the church lawn, camera in hand, and saw a robed figure in the sky, glowing against the dark clouds. Its face, fleetingly visible, was Clarice, her eyes wide with warning. Dozens of townsfolk saw it too, their phones capturing the same image. Michael's photos confirmed it. The hum now screams, "Run, run!" He clutched the camera, his faith crumbling. The church wasn't a sanctuary, it was a cage. The phenomena intensified. Lights blazed without source, filling the church with blinding radiance. Voices chanted in the halls, Latin phrases Michael couldn't translate. The Christ statue trembled, its stone hands shifting nightly, caught on camera. Parishioners flocked to St. Cecilia's, calling it a holy site, but Michael saw the truth. The journal's warning echoed. The church-bound spirits, divine in appearance but vengeful in nature, tied to his own guilt over Clara's death. He'd been away the night of the fire, unable to save her, and the spirits knew it, using her face to lure him deeper. He confronted the portrait, demanding answers, but it only whispered, "Listen." The hum became a cacophony, voices overlapping, Clara's, Father Elias, others lost to time. Michael pieced it together. St. Cecilia's was built on ancient ground, a place where grief and faith intertwined, trapping spirits who fed on the living's pain. The glowing figures, the moving statue, the voice through him, they weren't miracles but manipulations, drawing him into their grasp. On the final night, Michael stood in the sanctuary, the air thick with the hum. Lights pulsed, the statue's eyes locked on him, its hand raised as if beckoning. The voices screamed, "Stay!" But he ran, the church doors slamming behind him. He drove from Eldwood, the hum fading but never silent. St. Cecilia's remained, its lights flickering, its statues watching. Locals still spoke of miracles, but none lingered after dusk, fearing the voices in the dark. True horror stories film aired Michael's footage, the glowing figures, the moving statue, the sky's vision. The video went viral, viewers debating miracle or curse. The church stands, its doors locked, its secrets buried in stone. Michael never returned, but the hum followed him, a whisper in his dreams. St. Cecilia's waits, its lights calling, its spirits watching for the next soul to claim. The station that never was. I need to tell you something that's been clawing at my mind since I found it. I was browsing an old urban exploration blog, one of those sketchy sites where people post about places they shouldn't be, when I came across a thread titled The Lost Depot. The poster, Freight Ghost, sounded like they were barely holding it together, their words spilling out like a confession. They described a night shift at an abandoned train station, but it wasn't just some creepy ruin. It was something alive, something that knew their name. Reading it felt like staring into a void, my chest tight, my hands shaking. I couldn't stop, even though every word made me feel like I was being watched. I'm sharing this because I can't carry it alone. It's too heavy, too wrong. You're going to feel it too, and I'm sorry. But you need to know what's out there. This is about Lucas Hayes, the guy who thought a job watching an old train station would be easy money. But something was waiting for him, a woman in a white dress, a shadow that wasn't his, and a station that didn't exist on any map. It started with whispers in the dark, but it became a nightmare that tore at his soul. His fear, his shame, his guilt, it was all fuel for whatever was there. I felt his terror reading his words like it was my own, and I'm telling you now because this isn't just a story, it's a warning about places that shouldn't be, and things that know you better than you know yourself. I thought the night watchman job at the old Fairview Depot would be my way out. I'd hit rock bottom, fired from my mechanic gig, fighting with my brother Caleb, crashing on my mom's couch in a nowhere town outside Pittsburgh. The job was simple. Patrol an abandoned train station, make sure kids didn't break in to tag the walls or steal copper. It was just me, a flashlight, and a crumbling building nobody cared about. I figured I could handle the quiet, the dark. I'd handled worse, leaving Caleb to deal with Mom's drinking, letting him down when he needed me most. But the depot wasn't just empty. It was waiting, and something inside it knew me. My name, my failures, my shame. The Fairview Depot was a relic, its platforms cracked, its ticket booth boarded up, the air thick with dust and rust. My first night, I walked the perimeter, my flashlight cutting through the gloom. The station felt wrong, too big for its footprint, like the shadows stretched further than they should. My anxiety, always a low buzz, was louder here. My thoughts spiraling. I'd always been afraid of screwing up, of being the guy who let everyone down. Caleb's last words to me, "You're useless, Lucas," echoed in my head, and the depot seemed to amplify them, the silence heavy with judgment. Around 3 a.m. I heard it, a whisper, soft and feminine, saying Lucas. It came from the platform where the tracks disappeared into the dark. I froze, my heart pounding, my flashlight shaking in my hand. The platform was empty, with just broken tiles and weeds. I told myself it was the wind, or maybe my tired brain was playing tricks. I hadn't slept well in weeks, my anxiety keeping me up, my dreams full of Caleb's disappointed face. But the whisper felt personal, like it knew me, and the air grew colder, like something was standing just behind me. I felt exposed, my failures laid bare, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the depot was watching me. By my third shift, I was jumpy, my nerves frayed. I was patrolling the ticket hall when I saw her, a woman in a white dress, standing at the far end of the platform. Her dress was old-fashioned, like something from 100 years ago, and her face was obscured, hidden in shadow. She didn't move, just stood there, her head tilted like she was studying me. My stomach dropped, my breath catching. The depot was locked, the gates chained. Nobody could be here. I called out, my voice shaking, but she vanished like she'd never been there. My flashlight swept the platform, nothing but dust and cracked concrete. That night, I checked the security cameras, my hands trembling as I rewound the footage. At exactly 3:17 a.m., there she was, stepping out of the platform's shadows, her dress glowing faintly. The cameras didn't show the platform doors opening, she just appeared. My heart raced, my mind screaming. Was this real? I'd read about sleep deprivation, about hallucinations, but this wasn't in my head. The footage was proof, but when I showed it to my boss, he laughed, said the cameras were old, glitchy. I felt dismissed, small, like I was losing my grip. The depot seemed to agree, its walls creaking like laughter. A week in, things got worse. I was walking along the tracks when I noticed my shadow, except it wasn't right. There was a second shadow beside it, smaller, hunched, moving when I didn't. I stopped, but it kept going, turning to face me, its edges sharp and raw. My chest tightened, my anxiety spiking. Nobody else could see it. I tried showing Caleb when he visited, but he just called me paranoid and said I was stressed. But the shadow guided me sometimes, pointing to things, a loose board I fixed, a kid's spray can I confiscated before they got caught. It felt protective but also possessive, like it was claiming me. I started to trust it even as it grew darker, more solid, its movements less like mine. I felt like I was splitting apart, my thoughts a mess of guilt and fear. I'd always worried I wasn't good enough, that I'd fail everyone who mattered. The shadow seemed to know that, feeding on my shame, growing stronger every time I doubted myself. I called Caleb, begging him to come back to help me make sense of it. He didn't answer. I left a voicemail, my voice breaking, apologizing for everything, Mom, the fights, my failures. The shadow watched, its edges pulsing, and I felt like it was laughing, like it knew I'd never be forgiven. The whispers didn't stop. Lucas, Lucas, they called every night, from the platform to the ticket booth, the tracks. I started hearing them in my dreams, too, where I'd hover above my body, watching myself sleep in the depot's break room. The woman in white was there, her face still hidden, whispering secrets about Mom's drinking, Caleb's anger, my own worthlessness. I'd wake up paralyzed, my body heavy like she was pinning me down. The shadow was always there, too, standing over me, its form more solid, its eyes glowing faintly. I felt violated, my spirit breaking under their gaze, like they were peeling away everything I was. I found an old logbook in the depot's office, its pages yellowed, written by a watchman from the 1920s. He described a woman in a white dress, a shadow that wasn't his, whispers calling his name. He wrote about a train that never arrived, a station that didn't belong to Autumn. The last entry said, "She's waiting for me. I can't leave." My heart sank. This wasn't new. She'd been here for decades, maybe longer, hunting people like me, people carrying guilt, shame, pain. I felt trapped, like the depot was a cage, and I'd walked right into it. Desperate, I dug into the depot's history, scouring local records online. I found a newspaper clipping from 1923 about a woman named Eleanor Vance, a bride who died in a train accident at Fairview Depot. She'd been waiting for a train that never came. Her fiancé was delayed, her dress torn in the crash. The article mentioned her family, my family. Eleanor was my great-great-aunt, a name Mom vaguely recalled but never talked about. I called Mom, my voice shaking, demanding answers. She admitted she'd heard whispers as a kid, seen a woman in white after fights with her own mother. It stopped when I was born, like Eleanor had moved on. But now she was back, and I was her target. I felt betrayed, like my family had left me to face this alone. My guilt over Caleb, over Mom, over every failure, it was fuel for Eleanor, making her stronger. The shadow grew darker, its movements more deliberate, guiding me to a hidden door in the basement of the depot, sealed with rusted bolts. I heard crying behind it, a woman's voice saying, "Please don't disturb me. I'm waiting for the train." My heart pounded, my hands trembling as I backed away. The depot wasn't just haunted, it was hers, a trap for anyone carrying pain, and I'd brought mine right to her door. I tried to fight her. I found an old Bible in the depot office, whispering prayers, scattering salt around the platform. The whispers grew louder, the shadow more solid, its eyes now black voids like Eleanor's. One night, I checked the cameras again, and the footage showed something new, not just Eleanor, but me, stepping out of the shadows at 3:17 a.m., my face blank, my eyes empty. I hadn't left the break room that night. My stomach dropped, my mind was reeling. Was I her? Had I been part of this all along, trapped in some loop I didn't understand? I found a hidden page in the logbook, written in my own handwriting, dated before I'd even started the job. "She wants your name, your pain. Give it, or she takes you." I hadn't written it, but there it was, my words, my fear. The depot wasn't on any modern maps, I realized. No records, no history beyond 1923. It was a ghost itself, a place that didn't exist, pulling in people like me, people broken enough to feed her. I felt my spirit shatter, my thoughts fracturing. Was I Lucas, or was I just another shadow, another name for her to claim? I quit the job the next day, left the depot without looking back. I told my boss I was sick, but he didn't care, his eyes cold like he knew something. I moved to a new town, got a job at a warehouse, and tried to start over. The whispers stopped, the shadow faded, but I don't trust it. I see her sometimes, in reflections, in the corner of my eye, her white dress glowing faintly. Caleb won't talk to me, and Mom's drinking again like she feels like Eleanor, too. I check mirrors, windows, shadows, afraid I'll see her face, or mine, blank and empty. I don't know if I escaped or if I gave her what she wanted. My hope, my name, my soul. I'm writing this because I need you to believe me. Eleanor is real, and she's patient. She's tied to my family, to the depot, to something older than me. I thought I got away, but sometimes I hear her whisper, see her shadow beside mine. I don't know if she's in the depot or in me. The worst part is the doubt. Am I free, or is she still here waiting for me to break? If you find a place that feels wrong, a station that shouldn't be, don't stay. Don't listen to the whispers. And if you see her, don't give her your name. She's already waiting for it. The trucker's mirror. What if the road you're driving on isn't just a stretch of asphalt, but a trap that knows your deepest regrets? That's the question that's been haunting me since I stumbled across this story, and I need to share it before it consumes me. I found it on a trucker's forum, buried in a thread about weird shit on the road, posted by someone called Desert Drifter. Their words were raw, desperate, like they were racing to get it out before something stopped them. It's about a long-haul driver in the Nevada desert, but it's not just about late-night chills. It's about a mirror that speaks, roots that twist time, and photos that change to show your worst fears. I read it in one go, my heart pounding, my hands cold, and I haven't slept right since. I'm sharing this for True Horror Stories Film because it's too heavy to keep to myself. Hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss what's next. This one's going to crawl under your skin and stay there. This is about Daniel Nguyen, a trucker who thought the open road would bury his broken marriage. But something was waiting, a mirror that knew his name, photos that shifted to show his ex-wife in danger, and highways that stretched into nowhere. It started with a whisper in his cab, but it grew into a nightmare that fed on his guilt. His shame, his pain, his past. It was all fuel for something that wouldn't let go. I felt his terror reading his words, like it was my own, and I'm telling you now because this isn't just a story. It's a warning about roads that lead you back to yourself, and things that see what you hide. I thought the road would fix me. My marriage was over. Lynn left me after years of fights, my temper pushing her away, my promises broken like glass. I was 32, hauling freight across the Nevada desert to pay the bills, living in my rig, a beat-up Peterbilt that smelled of diesel and regret. Long-haul trucking was my escape. No people, just miles of asphalt and the hum of the engine. I'd always been good at running, from Lynn, from my mom, from every mistake I'd made. But the road wasn't freedom. It was a cage, and something was waiting for me out there. Something that knew my name, my guilt, my every failure. My first week on the new route, Highway 50, America's loneliest road, was quiet. Just stars and sagebrush stretching into the dark. I was driving through the night, my eyes heavy, when I heard it, a whisper, soft and feminine, coming from the passenger side mirror. "Daniel," it said, clear as day. My heart lurched, my hands gripping the wheel. The cab was empty, the mirror reflecting only the road behind me. I checked my radio, my phone, nothing. Just static and the hum of the engine. My anxiety, always a low burn, flared up, my thoughts spiraling. I'd always feared losing control, letting everyone down, Lynn most of all. Her last words, "You're a liar, Daniel," echoed in my head, and the mirror seemed to amplify them, the silence heavy with judgment. I told myself it was fatigue, maybe road hypnosis. I'd read about truckers seeing things after too many hours, shadows that weren't there. But the whisper felt personal, like it knew my shame, and the air in the cab grew colder, like something was sitting beside me. I cranked the heat, blasted the radio, but the mirror's glass seemed to shimmer, like it was watching me. I felt small, exposed, my failures laid bare in the dark. By my third run, things got worse. I was parked at a rest stop, sipping coffee when the mirror spoke again. Not just my name, but a full sentence. "You left her, Daniel. She's not safe." The voice was low, feminine, calling itself Eleanor. My stomach dropped, my breath catching. I stared at the mirror, its surface fogged, my reflection blurred. I saw Lynn's face for a split second, her eyes wide with fear before it cleared. My heart raced, my hands shaking. Was this real? I'd never hallucinated before, but my anxiety was a constant scream, my thoughts a mess of guilt and fear. I called Lynn, my voice trembling, but she didn't answer, her voicemail cold and final. The mirror kept talking every night, always around 2 a.m. It predicted small things, a flat tire on my next haul, a fight at a diner I avoided. But it also whispered secrets about Lynna's new life, her new boyfriend, my mom's disappointment in me. It felt like Eleanor was peeling back my soul, exposing every lie I'd told, every promise I'd broken. I felt violated, my spirit crumbling under her gaze. Was I losing my mind? I'd always worried my temper would destroy me, and now it felt like it was happening, the mirror feeding on my shame. I kept a photo of Lynn taped to the dashboard, her smile my only anchor. One night, I noticed it had changed. Her smile was gone, her eyes looking past me, a shadow behind her. I blinked and it was back to normal, but my heart pounded. Other photos changed too, one of Mom, her face angry. One of me and Lynn, the background now a dark, empty road. I tried taking pictures with my phone, but the changes didn't show digitally, only in the original. Each change reflected my fears, Lynn in danger, Mom's judgment, my own failure. The mirror whispered, "Look closer, Daniel." And I felt like the truck was alive, pulling my guilt into reality. I called my friend Mike, a fellow trucker, begging him to ride along. He saw nothing, said I was stressed, but his voice was shaky, like he felt something too. I felt alone, my thoughts fracturing. The mirror's voice grew louder, more commanding, telling me to drive to specific mile markers, to stop at certain spots. I followed, hoping it would stop, but it only got worse. The photo showed Lynn crying, a shadow growing larger behind her. I felt my spirit breaking, my hopes slipping away under Eleanor's gaze. The route started changing. Highway 50, a 3-hour stretch, took 5 hours one night, then 7 the next. My GPS glitched, showing me miles off course, but the road looked the same. Endless, empty, the stars wrong, moving in patterns I didn't recognize. My compass spun wildly, the sun rising in the wrong part of the sky. I felt disoriented, my anxiety was a constant scream. Was the road real? I'd read about truckers getting lost in the desert, but this was different, like the highway was looping, trapping me. The mirror laughed, Eleanor's voice saying, "You can't outrun it, Daniel." I found an old logbook in the glove compartment, its pages yellowed, written by a driver from the 1970s. He described a mirror that spoke, roots that twisted, photos that changed. He called it Eleanor's curse, tied to a woman who died on this road, her car wrecked in a sandstorm. The last entry read, "She wants my shame. I can't leave." My heart sank. This wasn't new. She'd been here for decades, feeding on drivers like me, people carrying guilt, loss, pain. The truck felt like a prison, and I'd driven right into it. A week later, I found a clock in the cab, tucked behind the seat. An old pocket watch, its face cracked, ticking at midnight with whispers instead of chimes. It wasn't mine, but it knew me, whispering Daniel and Eleanor's voice, predicting things. A storm hitting the next town, a lot I'd lose if I didn't check the straps. The predictions were always right, and I started trusting it, even as it grew darker. Its whispers more personal. "You failed, Lynn. You failed them all." My thoughts spiraled, my guilt a weight I couldn't shake. Was this schizophrenia? Was I breaking apart? The clock and the mirror worked together, their voices blending like they were one. I felt like I was losing myself, my reality blurring. I called Mom, my voice breaking, begging for answers. She was quiet, then admitted she'd driven trucks in her youth, heard whispers on this route, saw a woman in her mirror. She quit after a crash, thought it was over. Her silence felt like betrayal, like she'd left me to face this alone. The mirror laughed, the clock ticked louder, and I felt Eleanor inside me, her whispers weaving into my thoughts, her hands cold on my soul. I dug deeper, scouring truck stop libraries and online forums. I found a news clipping from 1973 about Eleanor Hartwell, a trucker's wife who died on Highway 50. Her car flipped in a storm. She was my mother's cousin, a name I'd never heard. My heart sank. This wasn't random. Eleanor was family, her death tied to our blood, her guilt latching onto us across generations. Mom admitted she'd seen her after the crash, in dreams and mirrors, whispering her name. It stopped when I was born, like Eleanor had moved on. But now she was back, and I was her target. I felt betrayed, my guilt over Lynn, now tangled with a family curse I didn't choose. The photos showed Lynn fading, her face replaced by Eleanor's, her eyes black voids. The clock ticked faster, the roots longer, the mirror colder. I found a hidden compartment in the cab holding a photo of Eleanor, her face like Mom's, like mine. The mirror whispered, "You're mine, Daniel," and I felt my spirit crumble, my hopes slipping away under her gaze. The truck wasn't just haunted, it was hers, a trap for anyone carrying pain, and I'd brought mine right to her. One night, the mirror spoke in my voice. "Older, broken, Daniel, you can't save her." I demanded answers, and it said, "You're already here forever." My blood ran cold. The roots weren't just twisted, they were a temporal loop, trapping me in a version of Highway 50 that didn't exist. The photos weren't predictions, they were memories, showing Lynn from a future I'd already lived. The clock was a family heirloom, Mom's, left in the truck, its ticks bending time, keeping me in Eleanor's grasp. I found a logbook entry in my handwriting dated years from now. She took Lynn. I gave her my name. I hadn't written it, but it was there, my words, my fear. The mirror showed me, older, gray, my eyes like Eleanor's, driving an endless road. I realized the truck was a pocket dimension, a prison for Eleanor's grief, pulling my guilt into reality. The photos showed Lynn's new life collapsing, her face fading, like Eleanor was claiming her too. I felt my mind fracturing, my reality blurring. Was I Daniel? Or was I already hers, trapped in a loop I couldn't see? The clock ticked louder, the mirror colder, and I felt her hands on my shoulders, claw-like, pulling me into the dark. I tried to fight her. I scattered salt around the cab, read prayers from a Bible I kept in my glove box, smashed the mirror with a wrench. The glass shattered, but the voice didn't stop, laughing from the clock, the photos, the air. The routes twisted tighter, the stars spinning, the road stretching into nowhere. I saw Lynn in every photo, her eyes pleading, a shadow behind her, Eleanor's face, now mine. I screamed her name, clinging to her photo, begging the truck to let me go. The clock stopped, the mirror cleared, but I felt hollow, like I'd given something up. I called Lynn, begging to see her, but she said she was sick, her voice distant, like she saw something I couldn't. I abandoned the truck at a depot, quit the job without explanation. My boss didn't care. His eyes were cold like he knew something. I moved to a new city, got a job at a warehouse and tried to rebuild it. The whispers stopped, the roots ended, but I don't trust it. I see Eleanor sometimes, in reflections, in shadows, her face blending with mine. Lynn won't talk to me, says she dreams of mirrors, of a woman on the road. Mom's quiet, like she feels Eleanor too. I check mirrors, photos, clocks, afraid I'll hear her voice. I don't know if I broke the curse or fed it my hope, my love, my name. Eleanor is real, and she's patient. She's tied to my family, to the road, to something older than me. I thought I escaped, but sometimes I hear her whisper, see her in my rearview mirror. I don't know if she's in the truck or in me. The worst part is the doubt. Am I free? Or is she still here, waiting for Lynn? If you drive alone at night, if you hear your name in the dark, don't look in the mirror. Don't trust the road. And if you see her, don't give her your shame. She's already claimed it. Subscribe, like, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss what's next. The watchers tied. Hey there, everyone. It's your late-night storyteller, back with a story that's been clawing at my mind ever since I stumbled across it. I was digging through obscure horror forums for my channel, chasing tales of forgotten places, when I found a thread on Reddit about a long-haul trucker named Caleb Holt. His posts, buried in a sea of comments, described something that happened in 2019 at a remote truck stop off Florida's Highway 27 near Lake Okeechobee. The details, disjointed, raw, and laced with dread, hit me like a cold wave. I felt his fear, his guilt, and a creeping sense that something was listening as I read. I'm sharing this because it's not just a story, it's a warning about what waits in the places we pass through. Here's Caleb's tale as I imagine he'd tell it straight from his haunted heart. My name's Caleb Holt, and I was 38 when I took a trucking route that changed everything. I'd been hauling cargo across the states for 15 years, mostly overnight runs through Florida's backroads, where the stars are sharp and the shadows thicker. I had dealt with my share of weird, CB radio static spitting voices, shapes darting across the road, but nothing like this. I'd been fighting my own head for years, too. Severe anxiety and a touch of paranoia made me question what was real. My sister, Lena, back in Barrio Luz, a Filipino fishing village where our mom grew up, used to send me voice messages filled with old superstitions. Don't stop at unmarked rest areas. Don't answer calls from the dark. I ignored her. Big mistake. It was a humid August night in 2019, and I was hauling produce from Miami to Tampa. My rig, a beat-up Peterbilt, hummed along Highway 27, cutting through the sugarcane fields near Lake Okeechobee. Around 2 a.m., my CB radio crackled with a job offer. A $700 detour to deliver a sealed crate to a truck stop called Gator's Rest, a blinking dot in the middle of nowhere. My gut twisted, but money was tight and my meds weren't cheap. I took the gig. Gator's Rest was a ghost of a place. A sagging diner, 2 pumps, and a gravel lot ringed by cypress trees and the lake's black water. The air smelled of mud and salt like something rotting underwater. I parked, expecting a quick handoff, but no one came. My phone, propped on the dash for my YouTube vlog, Caleb's Road Rants, a side hustle for my U.S. audience, caught my uneasy grin. "All right, folks," I said, "this place gives me the creeps. Let's see what's up." My chat from Miami to Manila buzzed with, "Don't go in," and bet it's haunted. Inside the diner, the lights flickered, and the only soul was a waitress, maybe 60, with gray hair tied tight and eyes like whetstone. She called me by name, Caleb Holt, before I said a word. My skin prickled. "Crate's out back," she said, pointing to a door behind the counter. Her voice had a lilt, like the Kundi man my mom sang, but colder. I grabbed the crate from my rig, left it by the door, and noticed a small mirror taped to it, reflecting not my face but a woman's, pale, eyeless, her mouth stretched wide. I dropped the crate, my heart hammering, and ran back to my truck. Back in the cab, my CB radio hissed, spitting my own voice from years ago. I didn't mean to take it. I froze. At 19, I'd found a strange coin in a ditch near Okeechobee, its surface carved with eyes. It felt wrong, heavy, so I tossed it into the lake. I'd never told anyone, not even Lena. Now the radio sang, a low chant mixing Tagalog and Seminole, pulling at my nerves. My vlog stream glitched, showing not the diner but Barrio Luz River, mangroves twisting into cypress. My chat exploded. "Who's that behind you?" I checked the rear-view mirror. The waitress stood in the lot, motionless, holding the mirror from the crate. Her reflection wasn't hers. It was the eyeless woman, closer now, her hands reaching through the glass. My anxiety spiked, my thoughts spiraling. Is this real? Am I losing it? I locked the doors, but the cab, filled with a smell, salt water, mud, burning leaves. A note slid under my seat. "You owe her, Caleb." My hands shook as I started the engine, but the truck wouldn't move, like the tires were sunk in tar. The radio blared again. now playing a memory I'd buried, me, sobbing as a kid, begging my mom not to leave for Barrio Luz. The woman's voice cut in. You took my coin, Caleb. You saw me. I remembered that night by the lake, the coin's eyes glowing under the water, watching me back. The waitress, still outside, spoke without moving her lips. Your viewers see me now. My stream showed figures in the lot. Truckers, fishermen from Barrio Luz, their faces pale, their hands clutching nets that dripped black water. They chanted, their voices a tide pulling me under. I grabbed my old cassette recorder, a habit from anxious nights, and hit record, hoping to capture proof. It caught my voice, panicked, but also hers, whispering, You can't run, Caleb. The mirror on my dash flickered, showing not my face, but Lena's, then Mom's, then strangers, all trapped, all hers. I called Lena, my voice breaking. Don't look in the water, I begged, remembering her warnings. She went quiet, then said, You saw the lady in the lake, didn't you? She binds you if you take her gaze. She told me to burn sage, but the air in the cab was too thick, like breathing mud. The figures closed in, their nets glowing faintly. The waitress stepped forward, her face shifting to the eyeless woman's, her dress tattered like a Baroque saya. Your guilt feeds me, she said, holding the coin I had thrown away. The lake outside rippled, revealing a shape, vast, segmented, with eyes like radio dials, tuning to my fear. My stream froze, but I felt it spreading, a hum reaching my viewers across the states, lodging in their dreams. I ripped the memory card from my phone, hurling it into the gravel. Someone will know. I shouted, but the woman laughed, her voice 1,000 drowned souls. They'll come like you did. The figure's nets tightened, the lake surging up the lot, warm and alive. My anxiety drowned me before the water did, my screams lost as the tide took me, my rig sinking into the black. Back to me, your storyteller. I found Caleb's memory card in a pawn shop near Okeechobee, tucked in a box of trucking junk. I played it, heard his voice, her voice, the chant. Since then, I've seen eyes in every puddle, heard whispers in my mic. I uploaded clips to my channel and they went viral. Viewers from Tampa to Seattle saying they hear the hum now. A trucker in Florida and a vlogger in Barrio Luz messaged me, planning stops at Gator's Rest. I don't know what's out there, but I feel it watching. Be careful what you chase, folks. Some debts don't let you go. Whispers from the grave. What if the dead are closer than you think? We venture into a cemetery where voices cry from nowhere, faces watch from trees, and shadows linger beyond the grave. Is something guarding the lost or claiming them? Let's read the story. Ethan Cole, a journalist with a knack for debunking ghost stories, arrived in Black Hollow, North Carolina, chasing a tip. A car crash near the old settler cemetery had locals buzzing about hauntings. The cemetery, overgrown with gnarled oaks, was a relic of the 1800s, its headstones cracked and faded. Ethan, ever the skeptic, set up his recorder and camera, expecting nothing but wind and superstition. But as dusk fell, a faint hum, like a muffled sob, drifted through the air. Walking the cemetery's paths, Ethan paused near a wrecked car, its hood crumpled against a tree. The crash had happened days ago. The driver was unharmed, but locals swore they heard a woman's voice crying for help. As Ethan adjusted his recorder, it caught a whisper. "Help me." He froze, scanning the empty graveyard. The voice was clear, female, desperate, but no one was there. His playback confirmed it, the words chillingly distinct. "Just the wind," he muttered, but his pulse quickened. Near a cluster of graves, Ethan noticed the trees. Their bark seemed wrong. Faces, faint but unmistakable, stared from the trunks, eyes hollow, mouths twisted. He snapped photos, his camera flashing in the dim light. The images showed the faces clearer, as if carved by unseen hands. Locals claimed the trees guarded the dead, but Ethan felt watched, not protected. The hum grew louder, now a low wail, vibrating in his chest. At the cemetery's edge, an abandoned house stood, its screen door flapping. Ethan approached, his flashlight catching a dog-sized shadow on the door. It moved, pacing like his childhood dog, Scout, who died years ago. He blinked, and it vanished. His camera caught a faint outline, like a loyal shadow lingering. Ethan's throat tightened. Scout had always stayed close. Was this him, or something mimicking him? The hum became a pulse, urging him back to the graves. Near a weathered tombstone, Ethan saw a flicker, a glowing orb, no bigger than a baseball, hovering over a grave. It pulsed, drifting toward the woods, like the wandering lights reported in far-off places. He followed, his camera rolling, capturing its eerie glow. The orb paused, then darted into the trees where the faces seemed to shift, watching. Ethan's skepticism cracked. Something was here, and it wasn't human. He returned to the cemetery the next day, digging into Black Hollow's history. The 19th century fire had killed dozens in an orphanage nearby, their bodies buried unmarked in the cemetery. Ethan found a journal in the town library, its pages brittle. The dead don't rest. They call from the trees, the air, the earth. That night, he set up his camera by the orphanage graves. A girl, maybe 10, appeared, kneeling with a headstone. She smiled, waved, and whispered, "Goodbye, Papa." No one else was there. Ethan's footage showed her alone, but the hum surged, now a chorus of whispers. As Ethan watched, a dying man stumbled into the cemetery, collapsing near a grave. Ethan ran to help, but the man's breathing stopped. On his camera, a shadowy shape rose from the man's body, drifting upward like smoke. The heart monitor Ethan carried for emergencies flatlined. A soul glitch, he thought, his hands shaking. The girl's voice echoed, "They're leaving." Ethan spun, but she was gone. The faces in the trees seemed to smile, the orb pulsing nearby. Panic gripped him. The hum became voices, dozens, pleading, crying. His recorder caught them. "Help us. Don't leave." The dog-sized shadow reappeared, circling him. But it wasn't Scout. It felt wrong, hungry. Ethan fled, his footage glitching, showing faces in every tree, the orb blazing. The journal's final words burned in his mind. The cemetery claims what it's owed. Ethan left Black Hollow, his story unpublished. The cemetery remains, its trees whispering to those who linger. Locals avoid it, speaking of lights and voices. Ethan keeps Scout's memory close, but the hum follows him, a reminder of the graves that never let go. Whispers of Greyhaven. Jacob Marrow trudged along the cobblestone path of Greyhaven, a fog-choked coastal village in Maine, the sea's relentless roar his only companion. At 62, his weathered hands and salt-streaked beard bore the marks of a fisherman's life, now retired after decades wrestling the Atlantic. 5 years ago, a storm had claimed his wife, Ellen, her boat swallowed by waves that left no trace. The loss carved a hollow in Jacob's chest, one he filled with routine, checking nets for neighbors, tending the lighthouse, avoiding the village's whispers of ghosts and curses. Greyhaven, with its crumbling docks and sagging cottages, clung to the cliffs like a barnacle, its history steeped in shipwrecks and tales of souls lost to the deep. Jacob scoffed at the stories, but a faint hum like waves chanting in rhythm had begun to follow him. Faint yet persistent, vibrating in the air. The village was small, its population barely 200, their lives tethered to the sea. The lighthouse, a weathered spire on the cliffs, stood as a silent sentinel, its beam long dimmed by automation. Jacob's cottage, a squat structure of gray shingles, sat near the docks, its windows rattling in the wind. That evening, as he walked the cliff path home, the sky churned, clouds twisting into an eerie shape, a human face, calm and watchful, glowing faintly against the dusk. Locals gathered, whispering Jesus or Mary, their phones snapping photos. Jacob, skeptical but curious, raised his camera, a battered Nikon he used to document the coast. The face stared back, its features unsettlingly like Ellen's, her soft eyes, her gentle mouth. His breath caught, his hands trembling as he napped the shot. The hum grew, a low murmur, as the cloud dissolved, leaving only stars. He hurried home, the fog rolling in thick and heavy, curling around his ankles like a living thing. The hum followed, now laced with whispers. Jacob, Ellen, and names he didn't recognize carried on the wind. He fumbled with his recorder, a habit from years of noting weather patterns, and captured the voices, clear and haunting, as if the sea itself spoke. Inside his cottage, he played the audio, his heart pounding. The voices were unmistakable, layered over the hum, a chorus of sorrow. He checked his camera. The cloud's face was vivid, Ellen's likeness uncanny. The hum became a wail, low and mournful, rattling the windows. Jacob locked the door, his skepticism cracking, the village feeling less like home and more like a trap. The next morning, Jacob woke to a fog so dense it swallowed the docks, the sea invisible beyond a gray veil. The hum lingered softer now, blending with the waves' crash. He ventured to the village square, where an old iron lantern hung, a relic from Greyhaven's wailing days. As he passed, it flickered to life, glowing gold without fuel, its light pulsing like a heartbeat. Jacob froze, his camera rolling. The footage showed the lantern swaying as if moved by an unseen hand, its glow cold and wrong, unlike any flame. Villagers whispered of the guardian light, said to guide lost sailors. But Jacob's gut twisted, it felt like a lure. He returned to the docks, the fog thicker, the hum a constant drone. Wet footprints appeared on the weathered boards, leading to the water's edge, then stopping abruptly. Jacob's flashlight swept the area, finding no one, no boat, no source. He recorded, his lens catching the prints forming one by one as if an invisible figure walked. The hum spiked, a chorus urging him to follow. The voices clearer now. Come, see. He backed away, his boots slipping on the slick wood, and fled to his cottage. The footage showed a shadowy silhouette drifting across the cliffs, its form humanoid but fluid, dissolving into the sea. Jacob's hands shook as he reviewed the evidence. The lantern, the footprints, the silhouette, they defied reason. He visited the village hall, a creaking building filled with dusty records and faded maps. There, he met Lily, a 9-year-old girl with wide eyes sketching in the corner. Her drawing showed a kind man watching Greyhaven, his face like the clouds, serene yet stern. "He keeps us safe," she said, pointing to the sea. Jacob showed her his photo of the cloud. She nodded, unsurprised. "That's him. He's always here." The hum pulsed, whispering Lily's name, then Ellen's, then his own. Jacob dove into Greyhaven's history, scouring the village hall's archives. A journal from 1883, penned by a lighthouse keeper named Amos, detailed a shipwreck that killed dozens, their bodies never recovered. The Star of Hope had struck the rocks during a storm, its crew and passengers, families, merchants, children, lost to the waves. Amos wrote of strange sightings after, faces in the clouds, voices in the fog, lanterns glowing without cause. One entry chilled Jacob. The sea binds them. Faces, fog, shadows. They claim the living. They wear our loved ones' faces to draw us near. Amos vanished soon after, his fate unknown. Jacob's nights grew restless, the hum infiltrating his dreams, conjuring images of Ellen standing on the cliffs, her eyes hollow, her voice calling him to the water. He set up cameras around his cottage, capturing flickers of movement. Shadows by the windows, footprints on the porch, the lantern's glow pulsing in the distance. The fog thickened each evening, carrying whispers that grew louder, more insistent. He spoke to old man Caleb, a fisherman who'd lived in Greyhaven for 80 years. Over coffee at the village's lone diner, Caleb's hands trembled as he recounted the shipwreck's aftermath. "The sea doesn't let go," he said, his voice low. "They're out there wearing faces to trick you. I saw my brother once after he drowned. Looked just like him, but his eyes, they weren't his." Jacob showed Caleb his footage, the cloud, lantern, the silhouette. Caleb crossed himself. "That's them. They want you to follow." Lily became a frequent visitor, her drawings growing darker figures in the fog, faces in the sea, the kind man with eyes that glowed. She spoke of dreams where he called her to the cliffs, promising safety. Jacob's heart sank. Her words echoed his own nightmares. He showed her his recordings, the whispers clear, her name among them. "Don't listen," she said, her voice small but firm. "He's not kind." The hum surged, a scream now rattling the village hall's windows. Jacob sent Lily home, promising to keep her safe, but his own fear grew. He installed a motion sensor camera by the docks, capturing more footprints, more shadows, and once, a fleeting glimpse of a figure in white, radiant like the cloud's face, standing where the water met the shore. The footage showed it turning, its face Ellen's, her mouth moving as if speaking. The hum screamed, "Come!" Jacob's resolve faltered. He wanted to follow, to see her again, but Lily's warning held him back. He locked himself in his cottage, the hum pounding, the fog pressing against the windows like a living thing. The phenomena converged relentlessly. The fog screamed names, Ellen's, Lily's, his own. The lantern blazed without ceasing, its light visible through the mist. Footprints circled his cottage, wet and endless, leading nowhere. The silhouette appeared nightly, closer each time, its form clearer, Ellen's face, her eyes pleading, her hands beckoning. Jacob's footage piled up, each clip more damning, proof of something beyond reason. The journal's words haunted him. They claimed the living. He realized the truth. The sea's spirits weren't guardians. They were lures, using Ellen's face to draw him into their grasp. He confronted Caleb again, demanding answers. The old man admitted Greyhaven's secret. The village was built on a reef where countless ships had perished, their dead bound to the sea, feeding on grief to grow stronger. Ellen's death had tied her to them, or something wearing her face. Jacob's recordings, his photos, his obsession, they were anchors, binding him to Greyhaven's curse. Caleb urged him to leave, but the hum was deafening, the fog inescapable. On the final night, Jacob stood on the cliffs, the sea roaring below, the fog thick and alive. The lantern blazed, its light pulsing in time with the hum, now a cacophony of voices. Ellen's, Amos, the shipwreck's lost, all screaming, "Stay!" The silhouette stood at the water's edge, Ellen's face clear, her arms outstretched. Jacob's camera rolled, capturing her, but Lily's voice echoed in his mind. "He's not kind." He tore himself away, running through the fog, the whispers chasing him, his name Ellen's, a chorus of the damned. He reached his truck, the engine roaring to life, and sped from Greyhaven, the lighthouse's beam fading in the mist. The hum followed, fainting but never gone, a whisper in his ears. He left his footage behind, shared with True Horror Stories film, a warning to others. Greyhaven remains, its clouds watching, its sea whispering, its lanterns glowing for the next soul to claim. The video aired, the cloud's face, the lantern's glow, the silhouette in the fog sparking debate, divine or demonic? Viewers flooded the comments, some awestruck, others terrified. Lily still draws, her sketches hidden, her eyes wary. Greyhaven's fog rolls in each night, the hum eternal, the sea calling. Jacob never returned, but the whispers follow. Ellen's face in every wave, beckoning him back to the village that never forgets. Whispers of Blackthorn Woods. What if the forest knows your secrets? We venture into woods where glowing figures perch in trees. Voices call from rivers and faces watch from bark. Are they guardians or something darker? Let's begin. Daniel Reese adjusted the weight of his ranger pack, the straps digging into his shoulders as he trekked through Blackthorn Woods. The forest, a dense sprawl of towering pines and gnarled oaks in upstate New York, stretched endlessly before him, its canopy swallowing the late afternoon sun. Shadows stretched long and thin like fingers clawing at the earth. At 42, Daniel had patrolled these trails for a decade, his boots worn from countless miles, his heart heavier with each step. The woods were his refuge, a place to bury the grief that clung to him like damp moss since losing his daughter Lily 5 years ago. She'd been 9, her laughter brighter than the sun, until the river took her in a flash flood, leaving Daniel with nothing but memories and a hollow ache. The locals whispered about Blackthorn Woods, their voices low, as if the trees themselves might overhear. Stories of glowing figures perched in branches, voices calling from the river, faces carved into bark, tales Daniel dismissed as folklore spun by bored townsfolk. The woods were near a crumbling stone church, its steeple jagged against the sky, a relic from the 1800s that drew ghost hunters and thrill seekers. Recently, a baptism ceremony had flooded the area with visitors, their cars clogging the narrow dirt roads. They claimed to see angels in the trees, radiant beings watching over the faithful. Daniel rolled his eyes at the thought, but the rumors gnawed at him, especially after he'd started hearing it. A faint hum, like whispering prayers, trailing him on his rounds. It was October, the air crisp, leaves crunching underfoot. Dusk settled early, painting the forest in hues of amber and gray. Daniel's radio crackled, but he ignored it, preferring the solitude. He adjusted the camera slung around his neck, a habit born from documenting wildlife, though lately he'd been capturing oddities. Blurred shapes in photos, strange ripples in the river. He told himself it was nothing, just tricks of light, but the hum grew louder today, vibrating in his chest like a warning. He followed a remote trail, one rarely used, its path overgrown with ferns. The hum pulsed, rhythmic, almost alive. Then he saw it, a figure perched in a towering pine, 20 feet above the ground. It was humanoid, draped in a white robe that glowed softly, like moonlight trapped in fabric. Its head was bowed, hands folded as if in prayer. Daniel's breath caught, his pulse hammering. He fumbled with his camera, hands trembling, and snapped a photo. The shutter clicked, loud in the silence. When he lowered the lens, the figure was gone, the branch empty. Heart pounding, Daniel checked the camera screen. The image was clear. The figure, luminous and serene, sat exactly where he'd seen it. Its face was obscured, but the glow was unmistakable, pulsing like a heart. He scanned the trees, the hum now a low chant, words indistinct but urgent. "Just a trick," he muttered, but his voice shook. He'd heard the locals call these figures angels, guardians of the woods. But this felt wrong, like a predator watching from the shadows. He marked the spot on his map, his hands unsteady, and kept moving, the hum trailing him like a shadow. The next morning, Daniel took to the river, his canoe slicing through the glassy water. The Blackthorn River wound through the forest, its banks lined with willows that dipped low, their branches brushing the surface like fingers. Lily had loved this river, her small hands splashing in the shallows, her giggles echoing. The memory stung, sharp and raw. Daniel gripped the paddle, focusing on the rhythm to drown out the pain. The hum was there, fainter now, blending with the water's murmur. He checked the footage from yesterday again, the glowing figure still clear, its presence undeniable. He sent it to his friend, Tom, a fellow ranger with a knack for tech, who'd called it creepy as hell but offered no answers. Daniel tried to shake it off, chalking it up to fatigue. But the woods felt different now, watchful. Halfway down the river, a voice cut through the silence, sharp and clear. "Dad, pay attention." Daniel froze, the paddle slipping from his hands. It wasn't Lily's voice, not quite, but it was a child's, desperate and close, as if spoken from the water itself. He was alone, the river still, no ripples to suggest movement. His heart raced as he grabbed his camera, switching to video mode. "Who's there?" he called, his voice echoing. No answer, just the hum, now a low wail. He recorded, sweeping the camera across the water, the banks, the trees. The voice came again, softer. "Pay attention." Daniel's chest tightened, his breath shallow. He paddled back to shore, replaying the footage. The audio was clear, the child's voice unmistakable, layered over the hum. Locals had told him stories of a girl lost decades ago. Her family's cars swept into the river during a storm. Her body was never found, her name was forgotten, but her voice, they said, lingered. Daniel docked the canoe, his legs unsteady. The hum grew, now a chorus, voices overlapping in a mournful hymn. He checked his map, noting the spot, and hiked toward the old church, its stones moss-covered and crumbling. The baptism attendees had spoken of glowing figures here, too, seen during their ceremony. Daniel hadn't believed them, but now doubt gnawed at him. The woods felt alive, their secrets pressing against him, urging him to listen. Near the church, the trees grew denser, their trunks twisted, bark rough and scarred. Daniel paused, catching his breath, the hum now a constant drone. He noticed something odd patterns in the bark, faint at first, then unmistakable. Faces carved or formed naturally, he couldn't tell. Hollow eyes, twisted mouths, some anguished, others angry. He stepped closer, heart pounding, and raised his camera. The faces seemed to shift, eyes narrowing, mouths curling, as if they were aware of him. He filmed, his hands shaking, capturing the movement. The footage showed it clearly, bark rippling like skin, eyes blinking, mouths whispering. Daniel stumbled back, his breath ragged. The hum spiked, words forming. Lily, Lily, his daughter's name, spoken by a chorus of unseen voices. He spun, searching the trees, but saw nothing, only the faces now still, staring. He hiked to the ranger station, locking himself in the small office. He pored over old records, dusty files from the county archives. Blackthorn Woods had a dark history. A fire in the 1920s had swept through, killing a family of 5 camping near the church. Their graves, unmarked, were rumored to be scattered in the woods. The baptism attendees had seen lights near those graves, glowing figures circling the site. Daniel's footage matched their descriptions, faint, humanoid shapes, radiant and silent. He called Annie, a local girl who'd nearly drowned in the river a year ago. She was 16, her eyes bright but haunted. They met at a diner, her hands fidgeting with a napkin. "I saw him," she said, voice low. "A man in white glowing. He pulled me from the water when I was sinking. He's still here." She pointed out the window toward the woods. Daniel showed her his photos, the figure in the tree. Her eyes widened. "That's him," she whispered. "He's not what you think." That night, Daniel camped near the church, his tent pitched in a clearing. The hum was relentless, a cacophony of voices, some singing, others screaming. He couldn't sleep, his mind racing with Annie's words. The sky was clear, stars sharp, but a cloud formed above the church, shifting into a shape, a human figure, radiant like a divine vision. Daniel grabbed his camera, snapping photos. The cloud held its form, a robed figure, serene yet menacing, like a warning carved in the sky. He checked the photos, the image clear, the hum now a scream. "Run, run!" Daniel's blood ran cold. The woods seemed to close in, branches creaking, shadows moving. Glowing figures appeared more than before, perched in trees, their light pulsing. The faces in the bark whispered Lily's name, louder, insistent. The child's voice from the river echoed, "Dad, pay attention!" But it wasn't Lily, it was the girl from the sunken car, her plea a trap. Daniel dug deeper, piecing together the truth. The woods were a prison, holding spirits bound by grief, the family from the fire, the girl from the river, others lost to Blackthorn's embrace. They weren't angels, they were lures, drawing in the living, claiming those who lingered too long. Annie's man in white wasn't her savior. He was a specter, using her survival to pull others in. Daniel's footage, his photos, his recordings, they were proof, but they were also bait, tying him to the woods. Dawn broke, gray and cold. Daniel packed his gear, the hum deafening, the figures closer, their glow blinding. He ran, branches snagging his clothes, the river roaring as if alive. The faces in the bark screamed, the child's voice pleading, "Stay!" But he didn't stop. He reached his truck, the engine roaring to life, and sped away, the hum fading but never gone. Blackthorn Woods stood silent, its trees watching, its river whispering. Daniel never returned, but the footage he left behind, shared on True Horror Stories film, spread, drawing others to the woods. The glowing figures waited, the faces in the bark grinned, and the hum called out, seeking the next soul to claim. The story ends with a plea. Blackthorn Woods is no myth, it's a nightmare. Lock your doors, dim the lights, and beware the whispers. The comments flooded in, some calling it fake, others swearing they'd seen the figures, heard the hum. Annie watches the video, her eyes distant, knowing the man in white still waits. And in the woods, the trees stand tall, their secrets buried deep, their voices eternal,